Hey, what is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to episode 75 of the X Button Gaming Podcast. As always, I am your host, Chris, and today I have two returning guests. On Zoom here with me, I have my good friend and frequent co-host, Jimmy. And then,
hello, everyone.
Hello, Jimmy.
I cut you off there.
Nah, that's
Hey,
all right.
happy to be here.
You can't cut me off when you have no idea what I do here because I change it every freaking time. So it's impossible to be prepared. But also joining us again for the second time, we have our good friend, the most tellerist of suits, Mr. Rob, aka Now I Rock a Teller Suit, is here with us today. Thanks for joining us, Rob.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Hey, Jimmy. Glad to be here again.
Glad to have you, Rob. Can we refer to you as Now I Rock a Sounder Suit, because that's what you're kind of rocking right now. Rob once again is proudly repping the PNW with his Seattle Sounders Xbox promoted jersey, which is appreciated.
Yeah, I figure every time I come on here, going to try to rep something Seattle related until I run out. So yeah, I got this. Having a mid 2000s, I think, Sounders jersey when like Clint Dempsey was on the team, and Xbox was the sponsor during that time. So some cool Xbox garb I got on.
Yeah,
it's a cool jersey. Crossover. I went to a Sounders game. The first one I went to, I think it was 2 years ago now. It was fun and nice, like slow burn sport. Obviously, I'm not too into sports, but I enjoyed it. I still think basketball was my favorite in-person sport. But we went to a hockey game last year, and that was fun. Mm-hmm. Only one I don't like is football. Sorry, football fans. I went to one football game, and I did not have fun. I was like, this is too loud. I felt like a grandpa, and I was only like 20. That's the last time I went.
It's one of the sports, too, that like watching live is just not quite as engaging or easy to follow necessarily as something like, baseball or basketball. Hockey.
I agree. I feel when you attend a football game, like the stoppages in between play, like you really feel them. Like you could really just like get disconnected and stop paying attention, especially if you're drinking heavily or you're there with your friends.
Yeah, I think that day that we went to a football game, I think that was kind of like, it was very last minute, and we were going to a concert afterwards. And I think I was just kind of like, I did it because I'd never been, but I think I was like, I'd rather be like doing anything else. like we couldn't actually talk. I just wanted to go to the concert, which we weren't going to be late or anything, but I don't know.
Sorry about that, man. If I remember right, it was against the Tampa Bay Bucks, and I'm pretty sure we won. I don't know what year that would have been, but
I do not remember.
2010 or something.
No, I think it was like 2007.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I was 20, and we went and saw Muse afterwards.
Yeah,
and it was a tour for
Black Holes and Revelations.
Black Holes and Revelations.
Ooh,
yeah,
that was a good tour.
Yeah, it was. But I think that puts it in that time frame.
Nice.
Yeah, but I couldn't tell you who they played or if they won.
I'm pretty sure they won, and I'm pretty sure it was the Bucks, because I remember we weren't like for sure.
Dude, your memory sucks, and you remember that.
Again, a memory is attached. For me, memories get locked in with good memories, and when your team wins, that's pretty easy to remember, especially when you go in person, especially when you go with somebody you're not used to going to a game with, which would have been you in this case.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that.
I guess that's true. The one time that I ever went. And you have invited me to other football games free of charge, and I've always turned it down because I'm always like, there's definitely somebody out there that would prefer to take that ticket than me.
Chris would rather play Madden than go to a real football game.
Yeah, this is true. All right. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I also like wearing these sports shirts because I like to try to turn the podcast into a sports podcast, and I have succeeded.
Yeah. It's easy. It doesn't take much to get James on that ball. And I've been surrounded by sports so much that it does. I can hold a conversation on sports.
Mission accomplished. We can totally hijack this podcast right now, Rob. Like Chris,
I have the power here. I can turn you guys off.
I mean, it's a collector's edition, but we could just make this a collector's edition about jerseys, about sports paraphernalia. I mean, you obviously have a great jersey collection, so yeah.
Yeah, how many? If you were to guess, or unless you happen to know, how many sports jerseys do you have?
Ooh. I'll first preface it by saying there's definitely people out there who have more than me. But maybe probably about like 75 to 100, maybe around there.
Let's go.
That's awesome. I love collections. Obviously, as you guys can see, I have a wall of games behind me. So, and nobody can ever shock me with their collection numbers. It's like, well, like you said, I have over 900 games in my collection now, and like you said, there's plenty of people out there with more than me. So,
Yeah.
I pale in comparison.
But yeah, that's what I tell my wife whenever she sees like my games or my jerseys. It's like there's crazier people out there.
Yeah, just show them somebody else's room. Yeah. See what you could be married to. You have it easy. Oh man. Well, like James said, this is a collector's edition episode. So we will be doing our one-ups and pickups, and when we get to the main topic, we're going to be talking about cart revisions, which is a very interesting topic. And Rob is going to be teaching all of us more of the world of cart revisions when it comes specifically to Switch games. I think before we get into one-ups and pickups, though, I have a few little news tidbits that I wanted to go over. I thought about doing it later, but I think I'm just going to throw them in the beginning here. First off, I just thought this was cool and I wanted to share it with the listeners as well. I shared it on Discord last night when I should have been sleeping, and I was instead looking at Twitter and then went down this rabbit hole. But a company called Lost in Colt that makes, I believe they make like premium vinyls and vinyl records for games and potentially other stuff too. But they're more well known even for their like books. They do books based off of all kinds of different things, but basically indie video game seems to be like their focus. I saw an article yesterday that this company is starting what is being compared to the Criterion Collection of video games. I'm not super familiar with what the Criterion Collection is because I am not a movie buff. But if I'm not mistaken, it is like really fancy premium edition releases of really well reviewed indie movies, right? Or like not like your AAA movies. You're not going to have Mission Impossible and stuff in a Criterion Collection, but maybe something like Lost in Translation. Is that, I don't know if you guys know much about it, but does that sound right?
I'm not a movie collector outside of the occasional steelbook of movies I really love, but I feel like Criterion Collection used to be on, I'm trying to think the website it was on. Maybe Target is what it's on now, or maybe it was Best Buy. No, it was on Best Buy, I think, for a while. I think you're right. You're on right along the right lines. It is collectible premium versions of movies. I do think though that some are AAA because I remember seeing certain like Pixar movies that had Criterion editions of movies.
Okay.
So I think generally though you're right. It's more like artsy. I don't know, critically reviewed movies that I think also have like visual fidelity. Maybe they're like you could call them almost definitive editions of movies in some cases. But yeah, don't quote me on it. But I think basically you have the right idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with what the Criterion Collection is, but I saw this news and it's definitely on my radar because if what you're saying is true, that they really emphasize putting out like a premium product when it comes down to like releasing physical versions of games, I feel like they're going to be giving companies like IM 8-Bit and Limited Run Games some competition on that front. And I think that sort of competition is good in terms of stepping up everybody's game and making sure they're not, excuse my language, but half-assing some of the releases that have come out. So I definitely, no pun intended, but definitely keeping my eye on the stuff that's coming out. I think you had mentioned that they're releasing 3 games that I haven't heard of them, but definitely curious to see how well they sell and what other games are coming down the pipeline from them.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at too. Like I didn't know what any of these 3 games are. And I'm the first to admit when it comes to the indie scene, a lot of stuff falls under my radar. You know, I like to consider myself well versed in the video game realm in general, but it's hard to keep up on all the indie releases. But yeah, when I saw this, like we talked about, like I was really impressed by the what looks to be the quality of the product with the slip cover, a special edition like packaging of the actual game. It comes with an art book. It comes with a booklet, you know, with developer commentary and stuff. And they are guaranteeing the like Limited Run says, they're guaranteeing a complete on disc or on cart version of the game, up to date of when it releases. So if something, a patch or DLC comes out later, that's not going to be on there, but a completely playable from A to Z version of the games that they're putting out. Yeah, and so apparently they're being produced in, I don't know, Europe somewhere, I think. But they're going to have ESRBs for those that care. So it is, you know, they are fully ESRB rated. They might have ratings for the different countries and stuff, but for North American collectors that care about that, that's kind of cool. And they're going to be numbered releases. And they are limited. That number may change, but each one of these will have a number on it, so you'll know what, you know, one of 1,500. I think the PlayStation ones have 1,500, and I think the Switch ones have 3,000 of them. So it's just pretty cool. And I'm not gonna lie, like I think about some of these like Limited Run. The first game they put out was
Thimbleweed Park.
That was their first Switch game, yeah. And like that game is worth like $100. And then like their first game was Breach and Clear on the Vita, and that's like a $300 game. So there's some value there. So if you care at all about this stuff, sometimes it's not a bad idea to get in at the base level. I'm not necessarily saying that you should. I'm not saying do it as an investment necessarily. For me, I like the fact that it's a premium product. I like the fact that it's numbered, not just in release, but in your specific copy. And I like what it comes with. And I did some research last night. I looked at the reviews of all of the 2 games that are announced for each bundle, and they're very well reviewed, very well revered in their genre. So I honestly, I took a chance, and I went ahead and pre-ordered the 3-pack for the PS5 ones. So it's the first 2 games, and the third game's not even announced yet, but it's cheaper to pre-order it in the bundle. It's the first time I've ever done this with something like this, because it's a bit of a gamble that, you know, the product's actually going to be as good as it seems, but they have a good track record, so I decided to take a shot.
You know, these are the same thoughts running through my head with about like getting in on the ground floor early with like some of the early Limited Run releases. And to your point about how they're limiting, what did you say, 1,500 for each game?
Yeah, I think it was 1,500 for PS5 versions and 3,000 for Switch. Let me see.
That's important to me because, you know, when Limited Run first started out, the production numbers didn't seem to be that high just because a lot of people didn't know about them. And I was talking about this with somebody the other day, but in LRG, they publicly stated that the Shantae Game Boy Advance release that just came out, I forget if it's like Risky's Revenge or exactly what the game is.
Yeah,
they said that they produced 20,000 of them.
Dang,
and that's that. Oh, you know who I was talking about this with? Craig of Craig's Game Room on the Bird Dog.
Oh yeah,
Discord. There's definitely companies producing fewer quantities of games than Limited Run now, and Limited Run has just gotten so huge that some of their newer releases with like more popular IP names, just the demand has gotten so high that it's like, how limited is it anymore?
Yeah.
Whereas this Lost and Colt, if they have like a good reputation in vinyl or other medias, other forms of media, I think it is like I could see this paying off being with their first like video game release if they have some staying power. And there's definitely going to be people collecting every single one. There's definitely going to be people finding out 2 years later about them, and it's like, oh, I have to go back and get like the original ones. There's definitely people still collecting every single limited run release.
Oh yeah.
So,
and that is
yeah,
a task.
Yeah. So I could see that being a good investment down the road.
I read after you brought it up on the Discord, Chris, I was obviously very intrigued, like we all are, and I saw an article pop up on Twitter from Nintendo Life, who actually interviewed these guys. You say they're called Lost in Cult, is that right?
Yeah.
And apparently these editions of video games that they're going to be selling, or they call them in all caps, the editions products, I guess, or it's like the editions line or something like that. I don't know if you mentioned this, but they also talked about how they're going to have a uniform look and design or style so that they kind of like on a shelf, they look good. They're uniform, they're consistent. So they're not going to be all different sizes, shapes, and colors or anything like that. They're going to look good next to each other on a shelf for displaying for collectors, which is nice, you know. But also I think they talked about that too, how they're going to be, their print timing should be a lot better because of the uniformity and the consistency of their product. They can get working on them a lot sooner and get them shipped faster than somebody like Limited Run could. But also, I like this quote in the interview, if you don't mind me reading it.
No, go ahead.
They said, as for the goodies included, again, we pretty much worked backwards from our principles. We had the game preserved on disc cart, sure, but we also wanted to preserve the story, impact, culture of the game, which our booklets achieve with analytical essays, developer interviews, and in-development artwork. We wanted to create genuinely high-quality keepsakes, not disposable tat. And I think that's UK slang for, I don't know, garbage or something, which sometimes you feel like you get, you know, with like a limited edition game from Limited Run. Sometimes, you know, kind of just feels like fluff, you know, not something of substance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is definitely intriguing and exciting, and I hope it's good.
Yeah, I like the vibe of it, and I obviously spend money on this hobby. It is my favorite hobby, so I don't have problems spending money on it. But I am somewhat stingy sometimes when it comes to new stuff because I don't always trust it. You know, like I struggle to believe that maybe they'll live up to their word or whatever. But I don't know. Doing the research I did at 2:00 in the morning when I shouldn't have been doing research on stuff, I was just like, I don't know. Everything's like telling me I want to do this. And I'm not buying it to keep it sealed. Like, these are games I'm going to play. I'm going to look at the stuff, you know, I'm excited to see it. I just think it seems kind of like a cool idea. And then like you said, James, too, with the like not wanting to just give garbage, basically. Like, I think a Limited Run, and I appreciate a lot of what Limited Run has done. I think that they've fallen far, but when I think of ToeJam and Earl, one of my favorites, they did a release for Back in the Groove when it came out in like 2018, and I had pre-ordered the special edition of that, and I knew what was coming with it, but there's so little ToeJam and Earl stuff. Like, I was like, I'm going to get the special edition, but it's kind of, I don't even have it on display. Like, it's not great. The coolest part of it is the cassette. It comes with a cassette tape of the soundtrack. So that's cool, but I'm not going to listen to it. Like, I'm going to just listen to it on vinyl. But yeah, just kind of like a cheap, like, it was $100. Didn't feel like it was worth $100. I bought it strictly because of my love for the franchise. And that's kind of where I fall with a lot of Limited Runs, anything other than just the base release, is it never feels worth it to me. I almost did the Tomba one because I really like Tomba, but even that one, I just couldn't justify the price at the end. And then I'm glad I didn't buy it, since a lot of their stuff did not live up to their promise in that. I know Rob knows.
Yeah, the Tomba plush toy is my favorite running joke. Whenever like somebody's complaining about Limited Run, I just throw up a big screen grab of the Tomba plush that doesn't look anything like
it's so ugly. Like. It's so derpy looking.
Is it that bad?
Yeah, it's not great. It would. The thing is, if they had said this is what it's going to look like, I think people would have been fine. It just kind of looks like a Muppety version of the character. But it doesn't look like the character, and it does not look like the plush they advertised.
They did, yeah. They showed a mock-up of what it was supposed to look like, and then the real thing didn't. Like, the face just doesn't look anything like that.
Yeah, it was so wild, laughable. Well, before I move on from this, I figured one of the games here, it's called Thank Goodness You're Here, and this one seems to be like a popular choice with like the people that I was reading their thoughts on the 3 games. Like apparently this game is really good. But this is the only one of the games announced so far that's going to have both a Switch and a PlayStation version, PS5 version. And I was just going to go down and read through what it says it includes, because each one is kind of the same idea. So it's limited to 3,000 copies for the Switch, 1,500 for the PS5. It'll be a physical release, all on cart or disc, housed in a custom collectible mailer box with seasonally rotated illustrations, essay and developer interview booklet, 40 pages by Lewis Packwood. I don't know who that is, but I assume one of the developers. Original artwork, outer slipcase, a poster, color thematic inner slipcase with release number code, fold out unique artwork poster with checklist and artist description on the back, 4 art cards chosen from the developer with captions, director's authenticity card individually numbered, variant PS5 or Switch game case cover with reverse artwork, and then they say shipping. Please give us up to 6 months for our first titles to ship internationally, aiming for within 3 months. If they can make that, if they can hit that 6 months or sooner, they will immediately win some goodwill over companies like Limited Run, who still get lambasted for the fact that their games take 2 years to ship sometimes. Which to me at this point, like, it just should be known. It's not saying it's right, but I'm surprised anybody buys from Limited Run and doesn't know that they're going to have to wait 1 to 2 years, basically. But Anyway, this is it almost could have fit in the I've got my eye on you thing, but our segment that we didn't do, but I think it seems cool. I think it's something worth keeping your eye on if you care about this kind of thing. And yeah, if once I get them, I will be discussing them more in full on the podcast and probably on a YouTube video too.
Nice. Yeah. One last comment about Limited Run Collector's Edition stuff. If you order a Collector's Edition item, you should make sure that like it's in your will that you have a beneficiary in case you pass and you don't get the item. Like, who's gonna get
it? That's funny.
I was just thinking that too. 2 years is a long time, man.
Yeah, dude, I can't even imagine. That's sad. That's sad to think about. As I'm laughing. Okay, and then the one other, it's not really news, but news-ish item. This is kind of a public service announcement. Not really. Whatever. So a friend of mine likes to work on apps. Like on Apple or Google or whatever, not Google phones, Android phones. And I was talking to him the other day, and I was talking about how all the video game collecting apps, they're all fine in their own right, but none of them do everything that I think they should do. Like all of them are lacking in multiple ways. And I was talking to him, and he was like, I might be able to do that. So I've been throwing ideas at him, and he's been working on this app, and he's got like a base for like very crude still, but he's got like a base version off the ground. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because anybody, what I talked to him about, anybody who's interested in potentially giving not feedback, because it's not going to be available to like test yet, probably for a while, but feedback as to what they think should be in an app, and hopefully an all-inclusive game collecting app. I'm going to open a separate thread in the Discord specifically for this. So you can shoot out ideas, things that you noticed are lacking. Maybe one app has it, but the others don't, or no app has it. Like for me, one thing that drives me absolutely bonkers is, and it's just a stupid thing, but I like with the PSP, I like collecting UMD movies. Like I don't go out of my way, but I like to buy them when I find them cheap, when movies I like. And none of the game collecting apps that I've seen, at least, or noticed, have a movie section like efficiently. Like CLZ is the app I use the most, and you have to do a whole nother app for movies. They don't consider it a game, which I know it's not a game, but it's only playable on a freaking video game console. So.
If you don't have Chappelle Show UMDs on your app, I'm not using it.
Amen. And I have the Chappelle Show UMDs, so I need to be able to catalog that. And it's not even so much like for the value aspect of them, because most of them aren't worth much. It's just nice to know. I don't know. I just like to keep track of all that stuff. So anyway, point being, he's working on that app. He's happy to take advice. And I'm gonna open up that Discord thread. So if anybody wants to join it. I'm going to make it private only so that it doesn't and it's not too much chatter in the Discord for people. It should be very specific to the people who care. So I have to figure out if that's something that you can look at and ask to join, or if you just need to let me know that you want to join it. Excuse me. Either way, I'll figure that out. But if you hear this and you want to join it, just let me know.
Nice.
All right. Now we'll get into the main topic. Oh, not the main topic. The first topic. We're going to talk about our recent pickups, guys. Our one-ups and pickups. Why don't we start with James? What are some recent games that you bought?
Well,
games or gaming-related items?
Well, Chris Perry, I have 2 games here that you actually helped me get. I didn't help me get. You gifted them to me. The first being this one right here. Middle-earth Shadow of War Gold Edition on the Xbox One. Color-wise matches Rob's jersey, which is very nice. So this is a game I have not played. I never played the first version of this game either. It was originally released in 2017. It's a sequel to the popular Shadow of Mordor, which I haven't played, but I know was received very well by people and critics. Apparently, time-wise, lore-wise, if you want to say that, game takes place between The Hobbit and Fellowship of the Ring, and is centered around a character named Talion, who is not canon, and I don't think the story is either, because, I don't think the story was approved by the Tolkien estate by any means. But the game is supposed to be very good, very fun. The story is a little interesting. Apparently, Talion wants to create a ring to rival the One Ring that Sauron created, which I find very intriguing. So interesting concept. It's an action RPG, and this gold edition stands apart from the original edition. I think this one came out 2018, in that it's the base game as well as the DLC on the disc, and it comes with a steelbook, and we all love steelbooks on this podcast. Am I right? Mm-hmm. So this is that character Talion. When you open it,
oh, that's cool.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I saw that and I thought it was cool. And it seems like a shame you haven't played those games since you love Lord of the Rings.
I know. I don't know why.
I never played that one, but I played Shadow of Mordor, and it's really good. And it created that. They created that Nemesis system for that game that is next level, like AI as far as game goes. Like when an enemy kills you and you come back, they'll like rank up and they remember you, or like people remember you, and the orcs or the orcai, whatever they're called, they'll remember you when you come back in that area. And if you're like becoming more powerful, like they'll run, they'll taunt you. It was a really cool system that's now stuck in WB hell from them closing all these studios. Which is too bad.
Another nice little touch is when you open up the disc, you see the it's designed after the way the ring is, with the Elvish writing on the outside in a circular way around the disc, in a language we won't utter here. But yeah, anyways, I think it's really cool. I don't know if I'm going to play this anytime soon. I would play Shadow of Mordor first for sure. So that is something also I probably have my eyes on now as a fan of the franchise and a fan of Xbox in general. So that's my first pickup. Second is one that I'm pretty excited to talk about, only because it's very interesting to me. I learned some new things when I was reading up on it, and you wouldn't know that this was a more interesting game than it is. But on the Nintendo GameCube, Fight Night Round 2, it is an EA Sports title. If you're not, if Fight Night doesn't make it clear enough to you, or Round 2, it's a boxing sim basically. And what's really, really cool about this game is that it includes Super Punch-Out. So the sequel to the original Punch-Out on the regular Nintendo is on this. Yeah. So it's packed in on this 2005 Nintendo GameCube game. Now, in terms of the game itself, Fight Night Round 2, apparently it's good, if not like great. Like it's a top tier boxing game, one of the best apparently if you look up like boxing video game lists. But back to the Super Punch Out game on there, a couple notes. So you know how a couple years ago they found that that secret 2-player mode that wasn't. It took like 26 years to be found, you know, from Super Punch Out, where you could actually play as the enemies or the opponents of Little Mac, and like if you had 2 controllers. A little sad that is not playable on this version of Super Punch Out. However, this is more than just a pack-in game. Beating it unlocks Little Mac in the game in Fight Night.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
A playable 3D version of the Little Mac from the Super Nintendo Super Punch Out. So you can literally play as Little Mac in Fight Night, fight like Roy Jones Jr., you fight Muhammad Ali, fight some of these greats from the past with Little Mac.
All the greatest in boxing history, including Little Mac.
It's kind of interesting. So I'm actually pretty excited to bust this thing out. But this also apparently confirmed some Punch Out lore. You guys want to get into some Punch Out lore here?
Obviously.
Sure.
Okay, so do you guys remember on the Super Nintendo Classic Super Punch Out what color the main character's hair was?
I don't remember.
Green?
Blonde. So
okay,
up until this game dropped, there apparently was some debate as to whether the main protagonist from Super Punch Out was Little Mac or some other character. I was not aware of this, but it has all to do with the way he looks. He's not styled the same. Like, you know, like the Little Mac from the original Nintendo game, he has black hair. He lives in the Bronx, which is fitting because we got Rob here. So got a New York touch. But Little Mac from...
Aren't you from Jersey, Rob?
I am, but I'll claim New York.
Close enough. Anyways, yeah, I found it so interesting to find out that like there's been this like little debate / war in internet forums for years. People saying that the character in Super Punch Out isn't actually Little Mac. It's someone entirely different. But this game apparently confirmed more or less that Little Mac from Super Nintendo is actually Little Mac. It's not some different character in the Punch Out universe. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I stumbled on some Reddit posts with some very heated and very not suitable for work conversation. Dude, people were angry. There are some people that feel very strongly that the character in Super Punch Out is not Little Mac mainly because of his look and because of his hair. And like when you think about it too, the Punch Out that came out after this, I guess, because you can kind of consider this a Punch Out. I don't know. You could kind of consider it a Punch Out release because of all the stuff, but like Punch Out on the Wii kind of followed the same design from the one on the original Nintendo. Doesn't look at all like the Little Mac from Super Nintendo. And then finally, Super Smash Brothers. Once Little Mac finally showed up, what does he look like? He looks like the original regular Nintendo Little Mac, unless you count the wired arcade grid green based one, you know. So they don't even have the Little Mac from Super Nintendo as a playable skin on Super Smash Brothers, which has kind of fed the trolls, for lack of better words, that say that Little Mac is not the character in Super Nintendo. Anyways, I'm rambling on here. I did not realize this was such a big deal to some people. Like I grew up watching my dad play both. I grew up watching my dad play Punch Out on the regular Nintendo. I grew up playing Super Punch Out, and I never, you know, I knew they looked different. I just assumed they were the same character, or, you know, maybe he's like Link in that his appearance changes at times, which apparently is the truth because this is Little Mac, and he's playable in this game, and it's honestly pretty cool. So yeah, I'm excited to play Fight Night Round 2.
He just went through his Eminem phase.
I was about to say that. In the 90s, it was so popular to just, you know, dye your hair blonde.
Yeah.
Jimmy, so that game, I'm guessing the Xbox and PlayStation versions of Fight Night Round 2, they don't have that feature, right?
Nope, not that I'm aware of.
Because I'm gonna add this to my GameCube want list. That's really cool. I didn't know about that. I know like NBA Street Volume 3 has like the Mario character tie-in, but this is like another one like that where it was like a Nintendo exclusive touch to it. And I'm a big fan of the Fight Night games. Not too long ago I was playing Fight Night Champion because it's they actually made it backwards compatible on the Series X, and I had the 360 copy. Had a lot of fun with those games.
Yeah. I watched a couple of videos of Little Mac beating on Muhammad Ali, and people say he's kind of busted actually, which makes me very happy. So, but dude, like, it's so cool to me that you have to play through this packing game. You have to beat it. And by the way, Super Punch Out, not an easy game to beat.
I never beat it.
That's a whole language, like learning that game and figuring it out. So like they make you work to get this unlockable character that otherwise you wouldn't know about. And if you did know about it, you might not want to put the work in. It's very interesting to me that they did this. But at the same time, it's not, like you said, it's not overly surprising. A sign of the times, like, because the GameCube era, like you said, there's examples of that. What was the game you just said? There was Mario ties-ins.
NBA Street Volume 3.
Oh, yeah. I feel like there was an SSX game, too, that might have had, like, some
On
Mario.
Tour has it as well.
And then, like, Soul Calibur had, like, Link, you know? Like, it's not like it was, you know, there's just a thing that they kind of did at the time. I think it's so interesting that this is kind of like an unofficial Punch-Out game, and I love me some Punch-Out. So it's pretty cool, dude. Yeah. I appreciate it, Chris. That was actually, I don't know if you knew how cool it was at the time, Chris. Maybe you did. But
I knew it had Super Punch-Out on it. I didn't know that Little Mac was playable. Yeah. Well, that's why I got it for once. I had no idea that version of the game on GameCube had Super Punch-Out in it. So once I found that out, I felt like it was like a no-brainer kind of cool gift for your collection. Also, it just feels like it should be more expensive because of what it has on it.
I wonder if it's a lack of awareness or something, or it could be the print run, because EA Sports games, obviously they tend to get a lot of copies made, but like, yeah, it's exclusive content to the GameCube. It's a boxing game, which there isn't honestly a lot of boxing video games. And yeah, I don't know. It's a little surprising to me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm glad you're happy with them.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to learn that new Punch-Out lore.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, why don't you tell us some of your recent pickups?
All right. I'm going to try to go through some of these quickly here. The first one, trying to fill some Nintendo 64 gaps that I still have in my collection, seems like people have forgotten about the Analog 3D coming out, and there's not much talk that I'm seeing on socials. And I think as soon as it does release, I think people will get back to trying to pick up 64 games. So I recently got Gauntlet Legends.
Let's go.
Which I hear is a very fun multiplayer game. I never played it when it first came out. And then I've actually heard that Gauntlet Dark Legacy on like the Gen 6 systems is really maybe a better version of this, where it's just like it gives you like more characters or moves. So maybe I still need to get that for Xbox, but I think I would like to try this out. I've heard good things about it.
Legacy is a lot of fun. They're both arcade games. Legacy is a little bit shorter for sure. But they're both, and they're fun multiplayer games. But yeah, Dark Legacy or Gauntlet Legends, I kept saying Legacy. Dark Legacy is a ton of fun. We played that game a lot when we were kids.
Next pickup. This was a game that I wanted for a while. I heard it's not great, or maybe like the second half of it is not great, just had been patiently waiting to pick it up because the price wasn't really going up anytime soon. But Brutal Legend, if it's a game that features Jack Black and has cameos from Ozzy Osbourne and some other heavy metal guys, I'm thinking might at least enjoy the music at the minimum. So we'll check that out at some point.
It's in my one-ups and pickups too. I just got it for PS3.
Right.
I've actually played it before. It's a lot of fun.
Sweet. Next game I got, you guys might have recalled that there was a game, Spec Ops: The Line, that was in the news because it got delisted from the eShops, and the the price on the game went up in response, and it's apparently a good army game that really gets into like the psychological aspects of war. And I'd been keeping my eye on that one, waiting. Prices started going down. And then I came across that it was actually a part of a collection of games called the Rogues and Outlaws collection that supposedly was a Walmart exclusive. And so when I saw that there was like a variant offshoot of this, I was like, oh, I'm going to try to get that. And happy to have it now. The prices, I think they've kind of gone down 50% from their peak since that spike from the game getting delisted. So yeah, this one's a cool one to have. And I've never played Borderlands 2. It comes with that. It also comes with Mafia 2. So I think I'll try to get around to get it. I'll try to get around to Borderlands 2 at some point because I've heard that's a lot of people's favorite Borderlands.
Yeah, Borderlands 2 is a lot of fun. I've still never finished it, but I enjoyed it, what I played. Another great co-op game.
Chris, we have time for 2-3 more?
Go ahead.
Next one, we were talking about this one on the Discord recently, is the Octopath Traveler 1+2 double pack that apparently is a Asian English exclusive. Doesn't look like it's going to come out in North America. And a tie-in to today's episode is that what's neat about this is it has the updated versions or most up-to-date versions of Octopath 1 and 2 on cart. And apparently Octopath Traveler 2, there's without getting into spoilers, there was like a really cool update involving boss battles that they added. So from a complete on cart perspective, this is the best version to get. Yeah. And Video Games Plus is selling it for a reasonable price. And I think Ben Livid also picked it up. And Jimmy, I think you were thinking about picking it up too.
Yeah, I am still thinking about it. The thing is, I have the first one on cart. I don't have the second, but I mean, I just like the box art too. Them sandwiched together on the same cover looks pretty cool. Yeah. Is it still available or is it sold out again?
I think it's still available. And honestly, I've caught on to VGP's like strategy where they seem to do a lot of false sellouts where they say like I've seen, I swear it's been like 15 times now where they say Scarlet and Violet with expansion back in stock. It's like they've just always had that in stock and they purposely just put out small quantities to buy. And so I don't think there's any fear of it selling out anytime soon.
Nice.
It's a really cool combo pack though. And yeah, I've heard the second game is phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's what I hear, that they've improved upon the first one, like in every way. So
yeah.
I kind of want to play the second one eventually. I tried the first one when it came out on Switch and I hated it. I did not like, hate's a strong word. I just wasn't vibing with it is really what it was. I didn't like how broken up it felt. I liked the concept, but I just didn't like the execution, I guess. But I hear the second one kind of fixed some of my complaints too with the way they handled it. So I do want to go back and play it because I love the art style. That 3D or HD 2D look is really cool.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder, Chris, if you'll like Live Alive, not to interrupt, but because I feel like it took some inspiration from Live Alive and that it's like, 5 or 6 different characters with separate stories, but that also have an overlapping kind of theme and connective tissue, I wonder how you'll like it.
I think the one thing that would make it a little different for me is the fact that Live Alive, even though it's a remaster, it's still based off of a Super Nintendo game, which it makes me look at it differently because it's more like what they did at the time and how cool it is that they pulled this off. Octopath Traveler was a new IP, and I just wasn't feeling it. I might like it if I go back to it now. At the time, I just didn't. I just got off Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and it just wasn't the follow-up RPG I was looking for.
Yeah, that's fair.
So then my final 2 pickups are not games, but are game adjacent. The first one is every now and then I try to pick up some like official Nintendo strategy guides for certain games that I want to pick them up for. This one's neat. It's the GameCube strategy guide that came out with. It's actually for the the Zelda promotional game that was a pack-in with the system, where it's a guide for 4 Zelda games: the Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask.
Oof.
And it's funny because I have like the Ocarina of Time guide, and I do want to get the Majora's Mask one. And I was doing, just for fun, I was like, let's take a look at the Water Temple advice in here versus Ocarina of Time. Did they just like copy and paste it over? And it was actually different.
Interesting.
So I feel now that I have like 2 different perspectives on how to beat the Water Temple now.
Which one is more efficient?
Yeah, well,
Either.
I guess the biggest difference is that like to fit 4 games worth, the font is smaller in this one.
That makes sense. I was thinking it's a pretty small guide for 4 Zelda games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like any thicker and like it's not any more pages than like the other ones. But so yeah, just like the official Nintendo Power ones, I think like I want to say Twilight Princess for Wii was one of the last ones that Nintendo did before they just abandoned putting them out. But yeah, trying to pick up a handful of like the Super Nintendo 64 GameCube ones.
Yeah, and that one's so striking. I love that silver reflective cover.
Yeah, and actually,
I feel like my mouth started watering as soon as you showed it to me on screen.
The shininess is a double-edged sword because it really picks up scratches easily. And if you're like looking for, you'll see on eBay like some of them are just like really scratched up, and it's like they're not even in bad condition, but just the scratches make it look like it's terrible. This one I got lucky. It's not too bad. It's got some wear and tear a little bit.
It looks pretty good. What kind of like protective bag do you have it in?
Just a really cheap like magazine thing I found, like 100 sleeves for $5 or something.
I want to find something like that but I want a board, like a backing too, to help keep them straight.
So that's what I'm missing. That's what I should be getting, those boards too.
Do they make them for magazine size?
I'm sure they do, just because I feel like comic book collectors, the comic books that come in a size like this, they probably like produce this is like an 8x11. So I feel like they must have that size out there.
And there's a lot of other magazines that people collect, Time Magazine, Sports Illustrated, lots of other things.
Yeah,
Nintendo Power.
That's a really good point.
Yeah,
I need to find some because I have a couple guides that I really like that actually have value too, and I want to protect them. But it's one of those things I always forget that I want to do, and it gets put off. I need to do some research.
Speaking of like obscure video game collections, I think Strategy Guides honestly would be another good collector's edition episode down the line. I wonder if there's a database that like, I don't know, not
Price
ranked,
Charting
like,
has it. Like
does Price Charting have it?
They have some of. They don't have everything on there. I'm sure like the rarest of rare strategy guides they might not even have on there. But
because I'm definitely a fan.
Yeah, I could tell you from experience. I've kind of like I've taken mental notes in my head when I come across them, like which games Nintendo put out official guides for. There's companies like Prima and Brady Games that have done like everything, and there are people that collect every single one. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet, but the Nintendo ones I think are really cool. Also, like I'm a sucker for the artwork on the front too, like Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Killer Instinct, games that I don't even like need like. I wasn't like looking to get the guides, but just from the artwork alone, they look really neat.
Yeah. They make good display pieces.
I gifted Chris the Super Metroid strategy guide years ago. I don't know how long ago it was now, but I can't imagine what the value is now. It would not be reasonable to buy now compared to when I bought it years ago, but it's one I've always wanted to reacquire, that and A Link to the Past for sure. I can't imagine what the Earthbound one is like, or Chrono Trigger for that matter.
Earthbound one goes for crazy amounts in good condition. Chrono Trigger is actually high up on my want list. A good condition one tends to go between $100 and $200.
Yeah, I regret not picking up an Earthbound one when there was a local store. This was I wasn't married, so more than 10 years ago, probably 15, and they had one and it was $75. And at the time even that was like not a bad price, and I should have bought it cuz that's the closest I'm ever going to have to having that game CIB. Like I'm never going to actually have the box, I don't think. But still no guide. One day.
Yeah. The last pickup that I have, Jimmy actually mentioned the game that it's related to earlier, Soul Calibur.
Ooh.
Years ago, I had come across that this third-party company, Hori, that's very popular. They have a good rep for producing like good third-party products for Nintendo over the years. They came out with an arcade stick that I thought looked like it was just like beautiful, like as a display piece. And I finally got my hands on one, and this is what it looks like. I know for the podcast listeners, I don't think I could do it justice, but this is something that I just always thought was very cool, and I actually will like to use it playing Soul Calibur 2.
That is super cool.
And
I love it.
This was a Japanese exclusive, unfortunately, so you couldn't buy this when it came out in the US without importing it. Even the box is pretty sick. If I could get it on the camera here.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they'll pop up on eBay from time to time, but it's a crapshoot on what the condition is going to look like. This one, fortunately, the seller did a good job describing its condition being in good shape. So I went for it, and yeah, it's pretty sweet with the characters on it. And too bad it doesn't have Link on it. That would have been the best.
Oh yeah,
still pretty cool.
That is super cool. Fight sticks are just so cool looking. Like I don't know, it just makes you feel like you have this premium arcade experience at home.
Yeah, especially growing up, like going to the arcades. I think maybe it doesn't hit the same with the newer generations, but if you grew up like playing the Street Fighters, the Mortal Kombats, the NBA Jams, even seeing something like this definitely caught my eye.
It hits different.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it for me. Go ahead, Chris.
All right, I'm going to go through some of mine. So a friend of mine, Keldrick, gifted me these a couple. It's been a couple months ago now, actually, but they are the Suikoden 3 manga volumes 1 and 2. So nice. I knew this existed, but I never run across them, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel the same to buy this online. I wanted to find them in person, and he found a couple and he bought them for me, and I thought that was cool. I look forward to reading them. It's based off of the story from the third game, which I've played. Not my favorite in the series, but it's still just cool that it even had an English released manga back then. So it's from 2003. So I talked about this.
I still need to pick up the Suikoden remasters. The price is starting. They're starting to drop the price on it, but we'll be picking that up once it hits $30 to $40 if it gets there.
Do it. I'd love to hear what anybody who plays it thinks about it when they're done, because I love those games. And I was happy that replaying them, I've talked about this already, but I was happy replaying them that they held up just as much as I remembered.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked about this one, but I got Star Wars Bounty Hunter on GameCube. My friend Alex caught somebody slipping a little bit on OfferUp, and he shared it in Discord, and I asked him to grab it for me, specifically because it comes with the promo Jango Fett card.
Nice.
And I used to play this TCG when I was a kid, and I loved this game, and it's just really cool that it even comes with a promo card. I need to get a top loader for it.
Nice.
But yeah, I've still never played Bounty Hunter. It's on my to-do list. But I wanted to play it on GameCube, and if I was going to buy it eventually, which I wanted the copy to come with the card. So for $20, that's the going rate for it without, so that felt pretty good.
Nice. Do you guys know if the GameCube Star Wars releases are anywhere from $10 to $40 more than the PlayStation Xbox counterparts? I know that's true with most things, but yeah, just seeing any of those games on GameCube, I just figure they tend to command a higher value.
for whatever reason, most of the Star Wars games aren't too high. Like they're not too expensive, just in general. And I think they're still more expensive than the PlayStation or Xbox versions, but I don't think it's like a huge margin. Like Bounty Hunter, like I said, without the card usually goes for about 20. And that's kind of the range for most of the Star Wars games, $20 to $30.
Yeah, that's honestly that seems lower than I would have expected.
Yeah,
it might
me
just,
too. Especially for how good the games are. The Rogue Squadron games, especially, are so good. You know, so
Rogue Leader's fantastic, and then the second game, Rebel Strike, or the third game, Rebel Strike sucks, but it has Rogue Leader on the disc, fully playable co-op, and that to me is one of the coolest things. It's a great version of that game, and they're both GameCube exclusives.
Yeah. Was that I missed it? Was the Bounty Hunter one an exclusive as well? I guess I'm thinking about the ones that released on all the platforms.
No, Bounty Hunter was on PS2 as well.
Okay.
As far as I know, that was on PS2. I don't think it was on Xbox. Star Wars had a weird sixth gen like release because there was a lot of exclusive games across all three platforms.
yeah.
Bounty Hunter was on a couple. Clone Wars was on all three. But then other than that,
Battlefront was only on PS2, wasn't it?
it was on Xbox as well. Yeah, not all of them made it to GameCube. Xbox had the Knights of the Old Republic games and what's the game with the clones where you play as the clones?
I can picture the cover.
I
with
can't
the,
too.
with,
It's not coming to me. But
with
that
the
one was
Separatist chip on it.
yeah, that one was Xbox exclusive as well. But yeah, but I don't think they hold too much of a premium over the other versions, the few games that are exclusive.
I guess Lucas was just wheeling and dealing back then.
Yeah, exactly. Another pickup. This one, I'll shout out Bird Dog Gaming. He recently put out a video of games that came with comic books. And as I was watching the video, which was a really good video, one of the games I did not know had a variant that came with a comic book, and that was Enslaved, Journey to the West. It's
Nice.
on both PS3 and 360, but this is it's done by Ninja Theory, which they're really good at their action-oriented games. It's a game I've always wanted to play and never did. It is not very expensive, like it's only like a $10 game, but to get a copy with the comic book was only a little bit more. I want to say I paid $15 for this, and I was like, at that point, like now I'm getting. Like I kept struggling to just spend the $10. I wanted to just find it in person. I figured I'd buy it then. But for a variant with a cool little like extra in it, that felt worth, snagging online at a good price. And here's a close up of the comic that it comes with. I like that they did a version for both PS3 and Xbox, and the comic specifically, from what I remember, this is a PS3 manual size comic, and the Xbox one has an Xbox 360 manual size comic. So they did them to fit their specific versions, which I don't know why that feels so premium to me, but it does.
Yeah, I saw Bird Dog Gaming's video as well, and then afterward, I knew I had Enslaved, but I checked, and then I saw I didn't have the comic variant, so then I threw the game out, and now I'm looking for the comic book variant.
Well, you are obviously trash.
Yeah,
I know. I know. Sometimes when I see these, I'm like, that variant's so cool, and I go look at my boring, lame copy, and I'm like, you're not a cool variant. Okay, I'm gonna blow through a couple Vita games because like I've mentioned before, I am going through for a Vita set. I picked up a handful. I got X-Blaze Lost Memories. This is a part of the BlazBlue universe, and it's a sequel to an X-Blaze something or another that I picked up last episode. There's some fun names in the Vita world, and they're all very anime heavy looking. I got Psychedelica and the Black Butterfly. I don't even know what that means.
it's a badass name.
Yeah. Right. It looks cool. At least all these, because I like anime aesthetic, like I think they all look like they could be good just from the look. All right, then I got Code Realize Wintertide Miracles. This is a visual novel, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah, and a lot of these I got, like I think those three I got in a lot for $30, so they were $10 each, which just it's so cheap. Like that's the price I want to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And I got these two together. I did a bundle on Mercari and offered the guy $25 and he took it. So I got MLB The Show 12, Oh no, 13. That is a 13.
McCutcheon.
Yep, I was gonna say I think that's McCutcheon.
Yeah, guys, exactly.
He's still playing. You know that?
Welcome back to the sports podcast.
Yeah,
Andrew McCutcheon
I
was an
obviously knew
outfielder
that.
for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think he still plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I could be wrong.
Dang, that was 12 years ago. And he's still
Chris
playing.
just said all his Madden and MLB The Show Vita pickups to the side. I'm not going to talk about these.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're done with that. I got Dynasty Warriors 8 Extreme Legends Complete Edition. This one's kind of uncommon from what I can tell. So that was cool to get. And my last two, I got Child of Light for $15 on Macari. I did not test it when I got it. I just assumed it worked and then went to actually play the game because I thought it looks good. And the game does not work. And it was already past the 48-hour period. So I was like, well, dang.
That sucks.
So that was my first loss. And then I started going through and because I don't always test them like I should because I've gotten lax because if the cartridge looks fine, it should work. And that one looks pristine, but it does not work.
That's my fear. I'm going to open up half my unopened Switch games and they're going to be all googly eyes.
Oh,
God.
I know, man. Dude,
No.
those googly eye stories that's a nightmare, dude. And you know where they're finding most of those googly eye copies too is on the West Coast. Less on the East Coast, more on the West. So they think that it's somebody that works at a distributing plant somewhere on the West Coast is where they assume this googly eyed bandit is. And it's scary, dude.
The ass crack bandit.
Like, I think he's forcing my hand. Like, I'm not keeping Switch games packaged anymore. I just open them immediately because I'm like, if I see googly eyes, I'm gonna lose it.
That's sketch. Last Vita pickup. I got a Japanese copy of Attack on Titan, Wings of Freedom.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, this game, it's on PS4 in America, but we didn't get it in America on Vita. And there was a lot of 4 Japanese Vita games ending for $10, no free shipping, and I didn't care about the other 3, but for $2.50 in theory, I bought this and was like, heck yeah, I'll play this on Vita because I love Attack on Titan.
Hey, Chris, with your Vita set, are you going to try to make a run at the limited run games too?
I don't think so. We'll see. Like I pick them up when I find them cheap. Like I'm not against adding them. My main thing is going for the retail set, kind of like what Craig did. What I'm really considering doing though is going for exclusives from other territories that interest me. So like Ratchet and Clank, the Ratchet and Clank trilogy didn't get a physical release here, but it did get one in Europe. So I'm probably going to pick that up. And then like there's like a Looney Tunes Galactic Race game, I think it is, that's supposedly not bad, and that got a Europe exclusive release. So there's a handful of games that I keep an eye out for. Oh, and Dragon Ball Attack Battle of Z didn't get a physical release in America, but it did in Europe. So like that's another one I have. And then there's some Japanese games sometimes. Oh, another one, Little King Story, which was a Wii game, got a complete edition release on Vita.
Really?
And it's delisted on the PlayStation Store, but it never got a physical release here, but it did get one in Europe. So like that's one I'm actually actively looking for because I have that game on Wii and I've always wanted to play it, but I don't love going back to the Wii remote all that much. So I'm kind of like, if I can just play it on Vita, like I would probably play it a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go through a quick couple pickups so then we can end on you, James, and go right into Power Hour.
Okay.
Went to Value Village the other day, which is a local thrift store chain, and I found a DS Lite with some kitty cats on it. It was $6 and the hinge is broken and it does not read DS games. But the Game Boy Advance slot works just fine.
Nice.
So I'm like, well, it's just a glorified Game Boy Advance system now, and it actually had the Game Boy Advance cover on it. I was surprised because like that's the first thing that people lose on these, the stylus and the cover.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just thought that was cool. You don't see consoles that cheap ever at a thrift store.
If the GBA slot works, who knows? Maybe there is a way to resurrect the
DS.
Depending on the condition of it, maybe there is a way to fix the DS part of it.
Yeah, I figured I might try taking it apart, seeing if I can clean anything. I did like try to just use some, whatever the stuff is you use to clean a Q-tip and some stuff, and I tried to clean it out, some rubbing alcohol. Okay, I picked up This was a really random last minute eBay purchase. Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness on the Dreamcast. This was a $5 purchase, free shipping. I'm just a sucker for cheap games on consoles that I like. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. I might play it sometime. It has Miss Pac-Man on it, the original version, so I can play.
Yeah, never heard of that one.
I think it's, from what I can tell, it's like the Pac World games, like a 3D platformer a little bit. Actually, no, that's not true, because it looks like Pac-Man, like maze type levels. I don't know if you can see. It's hard to get the thing, but then it has it has the arcade version of Miss Pac-Man on here too. Oh, $5 is just so cheap. I got myself a UMD video that I can't add to any app, and it was only $1, and it's the Fantastic Four, baby. This is a great movie.
Right on time to watch all the bad Fantastic Four movies before MCU drops their own. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, I like this movie, but it is not good. But I like this movie. I don't like the
honestly,
sequel.
I remember enjoying that movie too. I did.
Jessica Alba, you know.
Yeah.
You know what's cool about some of these UMD movies, just like DVDs and Blu-rays too, is it has special features. So it has cast commentary, it has a making of featurette, it has a music video of the song "Everything Burns." I don't know what that song is, but it's on here. I don't know.
Is that Human Torch's song or something in the movie? Or
yeah, do you not remember when he broke out in the song while he's, flame awning around town?
Usher exclusive.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like pulling out my PSP and putting a movie in, and just like I'll just set it up next to me while I'm working on my laptop sometimes and just watch a movie on it. I don't know.
It's cool, dude.
That's the end of that lame story. Okay, we're finishing up here. These were my favorite pickups, so I saved them for last. Once again, Value Village came in clutch. I walked in to Value Village. Jasmine was looking for a piece of furniture, and I was almost done. I was going to go back out to the car, and I decided to look behind the glass case, and I saw hanging there a copy of Zombies Ate My Neighbors on Super Nintendo, and it was only $13 or $14. And I was like, the heck? Like, at that price, I'm buying it. I have my copy still from childhood, but I figured I was going to buy it, and then if anybody wanted it, they could just have it. Like, this is a great game. Like, I wanted to make sure somebody I knew got it if they wanted it. So if you want it and you have a Super Nintendo, hit me up. If I have to ship it, just pay for shipping. And then I also grabbed, which I don't have this. So it's the Super Mario World, Super Mario All-Stars double cart. Well, it's one cart, both games on one cart. This was a pack-in for some consoles, I think, later in the Super Nintendo's life. And that's just pretty cool. And it was only $7. I was like, that literally says Mario in the title, and you only charged $7 for it?
Yeah.
It's wild. I've seen them charging $50, $60 for Mario 64 before, cartridge only, with a kid's name written on it and half the label missing.
Yeah.
I don't understand why these were so cheap, but whatever. I was like, I'll take it. So yeah, I was excited. I'm going to put the Mario All-Stars one in my collection, but the Zombies Ate My Neighbors, I'm hoping that somebody who wants it can get it. All right, my last. Yeah, I was excited about it. Super Nintendo games at a thrift store at all.
Oh, dude,
wild! Like,
yeah,
that's not something I see around here, like at all.
Auto buy if I saw it. Just yes.
At that price. Okay, my last three pickups. Oh, I just realized I had two Shantae pickups. I got Shantae Half Genie Hero on the Vita. I got this. This was once again an eBay. It was like $40, auction ending soon, and it's still brand new, sealed. And so that's the price the game goes for, like, complete in box on average. So I felt like for a sealed copy that I'm going to open and play, whatever. At least I know everything's in perfect condition. So I lied. I said I had one last Vita game and that earlier, and this was actually the last Vita game. I also got one of 20,000 copies of Shantae Advance Risky's Revolution.
Let's go.
Yeah, that was foreshadowing.
Yeah, he was telling the future there. I pre-ordered this, and I intend to play this because I do like the Shantae games. And the main reason I got the Game Boy Advance version is just because I think it's cool that it was a canceled Game Boy Advance game, and this was the way it was meant to be played. So this is how I want to play it. I haven't actually opened it yet, but I did put it in a box protector. But I do intend to open it.
Just for the record, the 20,000 print run wasn't necessarily a knock on Unlimited Run. It was like they knew
that it was going to
be it was going to sell very well because of like what you just said.
Yep.
So
I guarantee that we'll go to PAX in 3 months and we'll see this will be one of the games they have there to sell, acting like it's, you're lucky you came to PAX and we have copies of this.
And then they'll have it at PAX next year too.
Yeah. Well, we still had copies. I know, but I'm excited for it. I don't know. I've seen a lot of the rumblings on the internet that people were opening up the cartridges and they used old chips and stuff, and they're all like dirty and old. I don't know what to make all that because I am not that I don't know. I'm not tech savvy at all when it comes to that stuff.
The thing with limited run now is because they're just under. Everybody's got their crosshairs on them. They will like. Everyone will try to find a reason to knock on them now. In some cases, more deserving than others. I agree. That one is like, all right. Like, I'm sure there's other companies that are, if you're trying to produce a new Game Boy Advance game, it's probably not easy to get like the parts that you need. So
yeah,
something like that. I kind of was like, all right, this isn't the biggest deal.
That's what I read too. Like, I agree with that. And that's what I read is most people are like, they don't just make these chips new anymore. You kind of have to recycle them. So I was like, well, that makes sense. Either way, I didn't care. I'm like, whatever. I'm not.
Plush Toomba, on the other hand, though, unforgivable.
The monstrosity that is Plush Toomba. Last pickup, I got Spyro Attack of the Rhinox for the Game Boy Advance. Complete in box, has the poster and reg card and everything. I had watched this because it's not one I see very often. And certain game series, like when it comes to Game Boy or Game Boy Advance, like I'll pick them up if they get cheap enough. This guy had it listed for $60, and over the course of the last like 4 months, he kept dropping the price, and then he sent out an offer for $20. I was like, $20 is a great deal. I'll buy that. So I don't know if you see something on Mercari that piques your interest, it doesn't hurt to just watch it. Even if you don't intend to buy it, because you never know when they'll send a ridiculous offer your way.
Yeah, if you're on Mercari or eBay and you're following an auction and they just start slowly dropping the price, that's blood in the water and you're a shark. It's like, all right, I know I'm going to be getting this for half of what it's listed right now. I just got to wait until he gets desperate enough.
I don't do this often, but I have sent some ridiculous offers. What I like to do is find a seller that has a game I really want and then find another game that I at least kind of want, and I'll bundle them and I'll offer a deal where I'm obviously getting one of the games completely free and they'll accept it. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything. They could say no. So I do feel a little dirty sometimes, but make offers.
That's bargaining. That's negotiating, man.
All right, James, finish this up.
All right. So my last 2 pickups are 2 Switch games. I'm not going to, blab on for long. I have right here The Messenger,
nice.
Complete on card. Apparently, there was a recent restock of this game. For a while, it was really hard to find. I think it was just was it limited run or was it the other distributor that does more limited runs of games? I can't recall, but it was really.
It was both limited run and special reserve games.
Special reserve games.
They don't exist anymore. But it was at the time they both released. It was the same game. They just both released it under their own publishing.
Yeah. I think, Chris, when we did the collector's edition on Nintendo Switch games, this was on our top 10 most expensive list, I believe, at the time. I could be wrong on that, but I do remember having a conversation about it. And so, when they restocked it, it was kind of an auto buy. I was like, I'm not going to miss it this time. It's supposedly a really cool game, cool action platformer. You're a ninja delivering a scroll to defend your clan or something. This cart includes the Picnic Panic DLC with 3 new levels / boss fights and extra music. So it is the most modern version of the game on cart, apparently. And pretty cool pickup. And then finally, to match our topic.
Can I make one comment about The Messenger?
Yeah.
This year, I'm trying really hard to beat the allegations that I don't play my games, and I'm in the middle of playing The Messenger right now. I really like it a lot. I can see people enjoy it, especially it pays homage to like Ninja Gaiden and I think another game that I forget, but definitely worth checking out.
I love the look of it. It's one that I want to play eventually because I love platformers, and it just looks like a solid game. The art is so good in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty excited to play that at some point. Yeah. But definitely excited to have it now. It is still purchasable, by the way. I think I got this through, I can't remember who I got this through. I am 8-Bit, I believe, is who I bought it through. But it went to like a bunch of retailers, I think Best Buy and others. Like you can still get it now. I don't think it's going to be difficult to get in the near future, but you never know. And then finally, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond.
Nice.
Trying to get on topic right before I change it with Power Hour, but this is the 005 revision of the game. I got this on VGP, our resident, maybe not resident, but our relatively regional part revision specialist / ally. So yeah. I don't want to go too much into it because honestly, it will probably touch on this game specifically, or I can at some point when we talk about revisions later. But it was hard to get. It's hard. It's even harder, I think, to get the Shining Ruby revision. But got it. So glad to have it complete on cart, all up to date. Yeah.
That's awesome. Just talking about VGP incomplete on cart. Did you guys see the? I don't know if it was a tweet or a post on Instagram or something where they said. I don't remember how it was worded, but basically that they talked to like some publisher that's making Switch 2 games and asked about getting games complete on cart, and they said that they work with them. So they're obviously trying to, get as many games complete on cart as they can.
Yeah, I saw that. It was, I think, I thought it was like a hypothetical, like how they want to approach publishers that are not.
That would make sense actually. It wasn't real.
No, they're definitely like fighting the good fight for the people that care about the complete on cart games, especially for Switch 2. And like, we'll probably get into it later, but yeah, interesting times ahead with Switch 2 coming out and complete on cart games.
Yeah, definitely.
That it is. Well,
that's
James,
all my pickups though.
Why don't you go ahead and get us into the next segment, of which I'm going to push the button now that you guys won't hear the sound effect for. But I did just blow the eardrums of all the listeners.
Well, people, welcome to everyone's not so favorite segment. Maybe it is your favorite segment. If so, I'll try to live up to it.
It's my favorite segment.
Power Hour. And what I got today is a special, according to the top of the issue, a bonus issue from 1996, people.
Good year.
And it was it's basically the cover is all white except for the font and the lettering on the front, which says Happy New Year. And can you guys spell the way they spell new on this issue?
And you.
There's a shadow there.
The question is, why? Why is it spelled NU? Well, this specific issue had a trifold cover, which when you open it up, you can see your boy, Diddy Kong, on a basically brand new revealed controller nobody had really seen up to this time, the Nintendo 64 controller. Yes. And more interesting is all the Nintendo 64s in the backdrop that Diddy Kong is looking at. They're all titled Nintendo Ultra 64. So leading up to the release, I honestly have completely forgot about this, but leading up to the release of the Nintendo 64, the planned name, at least in the US and other regions, was going to be the Nintendo Ultra 64. Yeah, apparently at some point it just became Nintendo 64 because I think they had problems with that brand in Japan. I guess somebody else had rights to like Ultra 64 or something. There was like, I don't know, copyright issues or something like that. But yeah, what was Nintendo Ultra 64 became Nintendo 64 very shortly, apparently, after the release of this issue. But like, yeah, you even see, yeah, like on the 64s in this cover, Nintendo Ultra 64, NU in big letters on the front of the issue. Very interesting snapshot in time of when the Nintendo 64 was very nearly not the Nintendo 64 at all.
Did you notice the shadow of the NU was a 64?
Was it really?
Yeah.
That is super cool. I've never seen that visual before, and I feel like there just isn't a lot of imagery out there of the 64 when it was going to be called the Ultra 64. So I had no idea that Nintendo put out a promotional picture like that before with the Ultra 64 image on it.
Yeah. I don't feel like I've ever seen that issue before.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
Not that I've seen every issue, but
what's weird about it is it's a bonus issue. It says bonus issue 1996 on the top, but this is technically the January 1996 issue. There isn't another, like it says bonus, but it's not really a bonus issue. It's just the January issue. So I'm a little confused by that. I think it's because there's a section they kind of jammed in the middle that had more like segments they don't normally have in regular monthly issues. We'll get to that, but let's take it to page 20, staying on the subject of Nintendo 64, the Nintendo Ultra 64, because so this is January 1996, leading up to January 1996. Do you remember the event that used to be held in Japan that Nintendo held / revealed and distributed like news of their video games, video game products, video game consoles? Do you remember what event was called?
Is it Space World or something like that?
Yes, you basically got it. You've heard about the light at the end of the tunnel. The debut of the Nintendo 64 in Japan appeared more like a supernova exploding in your face. Everything we wanted, everything we hoped to find, everything we dreamed about in the ultimate video game system was there at the Shoshinkai Space World show, and so were we. So they revealed, I think it was Thanksgiving weekend in 1995. So basically, roughly a month before this issue came out, they had that Space World. And the first day was called Shoshinkai, and then the last 2 days were Space World. It was a 3-day event. And the last 2 days were something the public could attend, kind of a la E3 or, something like that. But in this article, they really talked about, they kind of broke down everything. They talked about specs, which doesn't feel like a very Nintendo thing, but they talked about the specs of the 64. They show you pictures of the controllers and all the colors. They even have an in-depth interview with Miyamoto-san and Tezuka-san, who I guess had worked on, I think he worked on Yoshi's World, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's World on Super Nintendo, but they were two of the designers of Super Mario 64, obviously, Miyamoto being the lead. But in this interview, I thought there was a cool question that they answered. They were asked, do you find that game ideas drive new technology, or is the opposite true? Tezuka-san said, hardware technology is very important, but if we rely too much on the hardware and not enough on ideas, you won't make games. You'll have demonstration software. New technology can make things more interesting. For example, the Nintendo 64 can produce advanced images, but if that's all we emphasize, the game will be boring. The problem we face is how to use advanced technology to enhance gameplay. The technology is just a tool for the expression of ideas. So I really like that even at the time when Nintendo was kind of like, they were on the cutting edge, right? Like they kind of brought 3D video games to the masses with Super Mario 64. They still weren't, like, you listen to them talk and they weren't that impressed with technology. Their focus and their intent was in the game design and making a fun game, because it doesn't matter how good the technology is if you don't make a good game. And I really like that they've kind of always had that identity, right? In a time where Nintendo Switch 2 is about to come out and everyone's talking about specs, how it compares to PS5 or PS4 or Xbox Series, like in the end, Nintendo's identity is their games. And I like that that's never changed. Where are we going next?
Preach, brother.
Preach. Page 33. Best of the rest. So they went through a whole list. They showed pictures and screenshots of games such as Shadows of the Empire, Body Harvest, as it was called at the time, Star Fox 64, Kirby Bowl 64. Was that a game that came out?
I don't know. I don't think there was ever a Kirby Bowl.
GoldenEye, Mario Kart 64R. But very interesting little blurb here on page 33. They also mentioned some of the Game Boy games, Virtual Boy games. This paragraph here says, new Game Boy titles included Tokyo Disneyland, The King of Fighters, and a fun little RPG called Pocket Monster from Nintendo. I don't think they were trying to be coy. I think they were literally just referring to what became Pokemon as some fun little RPG
Yeah.
at the beginning of
If only
1990.
they'd known.
Yeah. So yeah, like it's funny how quickly the video game world was about to change, you know, between the 64 and between Pokemon.
And the Virtual Boy.
And the virtual and the Virtual Boy.
Don't
Hey,
sell the
man.
Virtual Boy short.
It did better in the Gamecom, so good for you, Virtual Boy. Where are we going to next? Best of the rest. No, not best of the rest. We're going to page 58, I believe. There was a
Those
special.
following along.
Yeah. Pull out your issue of your
Wait,
bonus
yeah.
issue of 1996.
Which, by the way, I keep forgetting, like, during the pickups, like, I need to make sure when I'm talking about it that the listeners, like, I'm saying enough that the listeners can follow along. And that, Jimmy, when you get a chance, I think you should post a picture of that Diddy Kong with the Ultra 64, like, on the Discord.
I will.
And there's also plug anyone who comes across this podcast, please join the Discord as well.
Yeah.
It's a good place.
Have
Thanks,
lots of
Rob.
good
I
conversations.
appreciate that. I will share the image too, because honestly, I completely forgot about the moniker, Nintendo Ultra 64. And honestly, it's a little bit of a shame because that means that like Mario Kart on the 64, if that name had held up, would have been MK Ultra 64, which is kind of really cool in a weird way.
Wasn't Mortal Kombat Ultra, wasn't that Mortal Kombat 4?
Oh, was it really?
Or Ultimate? I think it was Ultimate.
Yeah, I think Mortal Kombat 3, there's like a Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right, so they did have an additive section in this issue called Bonus Issue 96. And this is probably why they called it Bonus Issue on the cover. Members only special. They talked about the best games of 1995 on the Super NES. Now, guys, I'm going to go through this list of 5 games, not in any specific order. I want you to tell me which games of these 5 were the top 3, okay? Here we go. Yoshi's Island. Mortal Kombat 3.
That's funny.
Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Quest. Killer Instinct. And Chrono Trigger. Now, what do you think, according to Nintendo Power in January 1996, were the top 3 of this 5 best games on the Super Nintendo from 90?
Top 3 sellers?
No, just top 3. This is what this was kind of like
games?
an award article. Yeah, like these are the best 3. This was the best games they had to offer in 95.
Do you want us to
What do you
guess
think got
separately from each other or with each other?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Rob.
So it was Chrono Trigger, Yoshi's Island, Mortal Kombat 3. Can you say the other 2?
Yeah, Donkey Kong Country 2 and Killer Instinct.
I think DK2, Chrono Trigger, and Yoshi's Island, but I don't feel confident.
All right, Chris.
I was going to say the exact same 2 at the beginning, DK and Chrono Trigger. And I was going to say Killer Instinct as the 3rd.
Okay.
I'm not confident in that either, but
Well, I think you both got 2 out of 3, which is that is commendable. Number 3 on their list was Yoshi's Island. Number 2 on their list was Killer Instinct, which kind of surprised me. And number 1 was Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's
Chrono
Quest.
Trigger got roasted there.
Well, I mean, it's still on the list of their top 5 games for 95, so it got recognized. But yeah,
I mean, the story
I
was
guess
good
I
and all,
forgot
but it
how
was
much
no
people like Killer
Scooby-Doo.
Instinct in that era. Next up is page 6 of this mini section in the middle. Major League Baseball presents Ken Griffey Jr.'s winning run. Now, Rob is here, and this is a Nintendo Power Hour. We got to talk about Ken Griffey Jr. and his video game once again. This was the sequel to Major League Baseball presents Ken Griffey Jr. Whatever, the first one, which I probably played for hundreds and hundreds of hours. I like how they introduced it. They said, "What does Ken Griffey Jr. love almost as much as playing baseball? That's simple. Playing video games." During the offseason, Jr.'s second home is the Redmond, Washington offices of Nintendo of America. Here, he checks out the latest video games and upcoming titles still in development. But recently, Griffey has been playing just one title, the second Super NES game to bear his name. Like the Mariners' incredible playoff run in 95, Ken Griffey Jr.'s winning run will open a lot of eyes when it debuts in spring 1996. So yeah, it's just, again, another interesting snapshot of time when the Mariners were a powerful team to be, a force to be reckoned with, until they got eliminated by the Yankees, I'm pretty sure, in 95, which is really sad. Are you a Yankees fan, Rob? I can't remember.
I'm a Mets fan.
Oh, okay. Well, then good. We're good. We're on good terms.
We don't have to end this podcast right now.
It's just funny.
Always been a thorn in our side, man.
It's just funny during that time how Nintendo was actively pursuing like athlete sponsorships. They had Ken Griffey, they had Kobe Bryant on a few games, and I guess things have changed now where there's such like a stranglehold on the licensing where it doesn't make sense for Nintendo to go like try to release a sports game with a sports athlete.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool if there was like a reason to do that again for them.
Yeah. I feel like the closest thing to it now is the cover athlete, unlike Madden, right? Like they always kind of talk about who the cover athlete's going to be. So like they don't end up in the title, in the name, or probably in much marketing other than just being on the title or on the cover of the video game. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So right after that, the poster, we all love the poster. And this poster honestly was a little weird. Like it's a calendar, which is not super surprising being the first issue of the year. So it's a calendar. I'll try to show you guys. It's like a double-sided calendar. On the inside, you have Prems 96, so it's like all the baddies from Donkey Kong Country. And then on the sides, you have like the months and the days right there. I think that's July through December. And on the flip side, you have Kong's 96. So you have like all the Kongs. So it's like a double-sided poster / calendar, which is weird.
Put it up. Take it out and put it up in your room.
Yeah. When I get tired, I'll flip it around. I'll relive the year 2000. Or no, sorry, 96. All right, then. So we're getting close to the end here, boys. Just really briefly, page 59, we got Scooby-Doo Mystery. I just want to show that there was, once again, a very noteworthy Super Nintendo game around the Scooby-Doo franchise. I think that popped up on a Power Hour months ago. I think it won like best story according to the magazine or something.
The second best story of the year. Only behind
I wonder
Chrono
what
Trigger.
I wonder what the CIB price is for Scooby-Doo Mystery on Super NES.
Not very much.
We'll have to get to that at some point. And then finally, page 98, Chris. This one's for you.
Yes.
This one's for you, my man.
Thank you. Pour one
All right,
out for
so
me.
they did a section, at least at this era in Nintendo Power, called Arena. It says, "Welcome to the Battle Zone. Have you ever wondered where the best gamers come from? If you said your house, be ready to prove it. The 1996 Arena rolls out the Battle Zone, your chance to contend with the best gamers in North America. Every month, we'll designate an Arena challenge as a Battle Zone challenge. The object is to compete and make sure your region is recognized in as many Battle Zone challenges as possible. In each issue, we'll post not only the best scores, but where they're coming from. Zombies Ate My Neighbors was used as an example this month." So if you look at the bottom of this article, they have right there the top Zombies Ate My Neighbors scores from early 1996. End of 1995. But this guy's name, Chris Tang from Sunnyvale, California, with an astounding 9,059,830 points.
Hacks.
He was way
A lot of zombies.
way higher than the second place player from Panama City, Florida, who only got 1,111,000 points. He topped him by roughly 8 million points. So whoever this Chris Tang guy is from California, we got to find him and some tips.
Show us your skills. I love Zombies Ate My Neighbors. It's one of my favorite co-op games of all time. I still have never beat that game. I get to the last boss and I die every time. And then you have to use, you don't get continues. You have to use passwords and you start with nothing.
Yeah.
I think Chris Tang's going to be in Chris's DMs asking for that extra copy of the game.
Hey, Chris Tang, hit me up. Show me your ways with this free copy you can have.
Yeah. Well, boys, that's all I got for Power Hour. But just never forget, guys, Nintendo Ultra 64 was almost a thing. We ended up with Nintendo 64.
Still good.
Yeah, that's really cool. Again, I had never seen that. I'm glad you pulled that out. That was cool to see.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest issues I've seen. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, it's pretty clean, man. It was pretty good shape too. Sometimes, man, you go to a game store looking for even just an okay shape, and they can all be pretty rough, ripped, missing pages and or the poster. And if it's missing the poster, I'm out.
Yeah.
in terms of spending my own money, but yeah,
spending somebody else's money, it doesn't matter. Where'd you get it at?
Super Smash Games on South Tacoma Way, Tacoma, Washington. It's a nice little store with lots of stuff, lots of high price items too, from what I could tell.
Yeah, it's a cool store. There's one in Olympia too.
Is there? Oh, is it a little bit of a local chain then?
Yeah, I think it's only. There might be a third location, maybe, but I know that I've only been to the Tacoma and the Olympia one. Yeah,
the guys were pretty cool. I mean, I went up there with just a note on my iPhone, and I was like, "Hey, I got like 30 issues I'm looking for. Can you see if you got them?" And they got like a whole stash, like numbered in their computer, so they kind of know what they got, which is kind of cool.
Huh, that's super cool.
Yeah,
I've bought. Their prices are pretty good there. I mean, they're priced fair a lot, and sometimes a little bit under like your standard price charting pricing. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for Power Hour, my friend. It was very powerful and powerful. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move into the main topic.
All right.
So, like I mentioned at the outset of the episode, we're going to be talking about cart revisions. So, what exactly is that? Why does that interest you? Why should you care? Well, we're going to find that out today. We're going to learn more about cart revisions, what they entail, why you should care, whether you're a collector or not. And I'm going to turn it over to Rob now, and he's going to tell us about what a cart revision is.
Thanks, Chris. So I would describe a cart revision is when a publisher of a game, they start producing an updated version of that game on the cartridge. So it would be considered a software update of a particular game. And a game could have 0 or it could have several software updates during its life cycle of how long the game has been on sale for, both physically and digitally. And the reason why some people might want to care about the version of the game or about the cart revisions is that some people will want to play quote unquote the best version of the game or the most, which is subjective, because we'll get into this in a second, where sometimes people might purposely want to get an older version of a game. But I could tell you the reason why I personally started collecting is that there's these arcadey type places around me in New Jersey. There's one particular chain called Yestercades, where it's you go in, it's one of those like pay a certain amount per hour and you have access to all the arcade games that they have in there. But then they also have a section where it's like a library with couches and TVs and arcade games set up. I mean console games set up, excuse me. And I went in there for the first time one day and I was like, man, it would be really cool to just have a library of games that, when I get around someday, like I don't have to play it right now. I could wait 10 years and just grab it off the shelf and play. And in this modern era of game collecting and playing, with the technology that's out there, if you buy a game digitally, these companies can just update the game digitally on the fly, and you just have a software update that way. But if you want to have a physical collection of games and a particular publisher has they produce a material update that impacts the gameplay, provides additional content, extra characters, where it becomes almost like a different game and it becomes a quote unquote better version of the game. That's the one that you're going to want to have if you have a choice. So some of these publishers, mainly Nintendo, they will start producing an updated version of a game on the cart. And there's actually a way that you could tell which version of the game that you have when you buy it. And I think one other thing that I'll quickly mention is that we've seen in recent video game history that some games are broken on arrival. The day that they release, they just don't work. Cyberpunk 2077, No Man's Sky, Star Wars Battlefront 2, the newer one, to name a few.
Yep.
Those are games that in their original state were just not playable. And so for those particular games that like you're not going to want to have the old version of the game, you're going to want to have the latest one. And so that's kind of a good like summary of what it's about. And for me personally, in my journey of collecting, I found it, especially with Switch, it's kind of like a style of variant collecting that has interested me, both because it's like there's the thrill of a hunt trying to find the latest version of games, and then also the aspect of what I was saying before, like if I don't have time to play this game right now, it'll be nice knowing that 10 years from now, if Nintendo stops supporting the Switch, you can't download updates. I have the latest version that is complete on cart, has all those gameplay updates that were made, and I could play that game knowing that it's the latest and greatest version of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important from like a preservation standpoint, like to know that you have, like you said, you have a copy, it has everything on it. I think one of the wild things to me that I've noticed, and or at least I feel like I've noticed, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is the simple fact that they release these updated carts, Nintendo or whatever publisher that does, and it has all the downloadable content on it or whatever, all the patches, and there's no fanfare, nothing. You would have no idea that this is the case. They make no note of the fact that they're releasing an updated version of it. So without, the sharp eye of collectors and fans, like people would have never known. Like I've known now for a few years, but I feel like all of a sudden it was a thing that I had no idea was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so interesting to me too, that it's like it's optional, right? Like Nintendo or any of these other third-party companies that happen to do it, they don't have to do it, and yet okay, so in the case that your game is broken on launch, yeah, you kind of have to do it. Otherwise people are not going to keep buying the game, and you're going to have terrible PR, etc. But like there's a lot of cases where that's not the fact, like they patch a little thing here, a little there, just quality of life stuff. And like you said, they don't tell anyone. Maybe they release some like game patch notes or whatever, but it's not like ever said outright to anyone like, oh, hey, this is going to be circulated in carts coming soon. Like no one says that.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, why do they do it then in cases that they don't have to do it? Do we even have an answer for that? No.
I think it's a good question. And I think it comes back to Nintendo trying to be like, they always try to be, I think, a customer friendly company. And so I think in terms of customer satisfaction, if they update, make a software update of the game that in most cases there's several bug fixes, there's gameplay quality improvements, in their mind it's like, okay, we're putting a better product out there. Let's take the time to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll also, this is slightly off topic, but still on the thought. Like to me, it feels like the first version of this was probably like the Game of the Year editions that started coming out for games in like the PS3 360 era, where they would really, after all the DLC came out, they released a new edition with all of it. And sometimes it was on the disc. Sometimes it was still a download code. But that was like, those were cool because like if you hadn't already got the game, now you can get it with everything. Collectors that liked the game would buy it again because now they know they have a complete on disc version with all the DLC they enjoyed. But there was, just going back to what we're talking about, there was fanfare around that specific release that had a different UPC number and everything. It was sold as its own thing aside. I'm just going to use that as an example, like Fallout 3 Game of the Year edition. I don't remember if that was all on the disc or not, but that's not the point. The point being, it was its own release that stood out on its own. You could have both on a shelf next to each other. If you're shopping for a copy of a game now that you want it to be complete on cart, there's other. We'll get into this, but from The outside, a lot of times, there's not an easy tell, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to actually get to the contents on the inside of the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the point where it's like Nintendo is not openly stating, hey, games from this point forward are now going to be version 02, which will have software update 1.7. It's all been a voluntary community effort. I'll shout out Nintendo Revise. I think they were one of the groups pioneering it. And then I think I don't know if it's the same people or different people, but the doesitplay.org, they're also a group that they test games to confirm, like, if you can play it without signing online and updating your game that way. So, in order to find the latest version of the games, it's all word of mouth. And like you were saying, Chris, in most cases, you can't tell on the outside of the case. You have to open the game and look at the back of the cart to determine what cart revision is on there. And it just that makes it much trickier when you're shopping on eBay or you're shopping on stores that, like, I don't know, a lot of the stores by me, or I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the stores by me, they keep the cartridges behind the cashier's table. And it's like, I don't want to have to take the time and say, hey, this game right here, can I see the cart? In this one, can I see the cart? It's like, it makes it much more difficult in some cases to try to find the latest version that way.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to me that, so there is, I mean, it's a little bit of a gamble, right? Like it's as far as collectors go, it's like you said, like, it's not just buying the game, it's buying the game, opening the game, and hoping that it's the revised version you're looking for. Because sometimes even through word of mouth, they'll say, oh, this distributor is just saying they've had this revision 004 has been found in the wild when they was bought through this company or through this website. And yeah, you'll buy it, you'll open it, oh yeah, I found it. Or maybe, oh no, I didn't find it. You have to, the search continues. And so yeah, the safer thing probably would be to go on eBay, look up a bunch of different listings of this game and hope that they posted pictures of the code on the back of the cartridge. But the thing is, that's the easiest way to be sure of what it is. Those go so fast by other means. So you're just kind of in this like circle of just going back and buying new games to try to find the one you're looking for sometimes.
Chris, you were mentioning the Game of the Year editions with PS3 and Xbox 360, and I know I think like most of the topic on this episode is around like the Switch One and how Nintendo has been making the cartridge revisions very like visible and easy to see when you have your hands on it. I did want to touch on, like, historically, I'm not an expert on this subject with like Nintendo and Super Nintendo, but in preparation for this episode, I was doing a lot of research on the Nintendo 64. And a fun fact about cartridge revisions with Nintendo 64, if you take a Nintendo 64 game and you look at the stamp imprint in the back, which I also like to do because often that's a surefire, or that's like a good way to determine whether your game is counterfeit or not, is if it has this like manufacturer's stamp. If you see a stamp that has a letter A or B or C at the end, in most cases you'll see like a 2-digit number, which I'm not sure exactly what that means. I think it might have meant like where the game was manufactured. But if you see a third like letter A, B, or C, it actually means that it's a updated version of the game. And there's savvy people out there that have put together a list of all Nintendo 64 games where you can find an updated version. I'm going to try to put it on the camera right here. I have Shadows of the Empire.
Great game.
And turns out I was just looking at my games, and this one, unfortunately, I can't really get it on here, but it says 09A. and that A means that it was a revised version. Now, like what's revised, like what is the update to the game? That's still a mystery, and I think people are still like, maybe that information is out there, but it's not easy to come by. But one game where there is good documentation on updates on the cart is Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Mm.
And I think it was actually due to the speed running movement. People start to pay very close attention to the differences in the versions of the game to try to get an edge on speed running the game. I'm sure there may have been other reasons too, but it's funny. I actually have my childhood copy here. And then at some point in my collecting journey, I was able to pick up a gold collector's version.
That's cool.
And the original version, there's a few differences between the first version and then the second or third version that came out. In the first version, like Ganondorf's blood was red, and it would shoot like red fireballs. There's a couple of other things, but in the newer version, Ganondorf's blood was green, and people had suspected that maybe they tried to change the blood to green to keep the rating like rated E for everyone and not get like a teen or a mature rating. There's another minor controversy where I think the Fire Temple in the very first version of the game, there was like this like Islam, the music was actually like an Islamic chant.
Yeah.
And I think like somebody like translated it into English, and I think in part of the song they say like Allah, like God is great, like praise Allah or something. And then I think when Nintendo found out, it's like, oh, we don't want to like
keep religion out of this.
Yeah, keep religion out of this. And so they like in the later versions of the game, like they took that song out. So this, I guess, was, you know, the whole reason why I bring this up is that this was happening like in earlier versions of systems, but back then people weren't just like throwing out like brand new DLC content just like right there on the game that you could download digitally. So like cart changes back then, they weren't as substantial and like don't really add as much like meaningful impact to the game, whereas some of these Switch version updates are quite material with like the newer versions and in terms of gameplay. And I think there's a lot more attention on them now.
I think that's really cool. I appreciate you bringing up that example of Ocarina of Time. And just in general, like I didn't know, like obviously I knew there were variants sometimes because I knew the gold cart Ocarina of Time and the gray cart are two completely different releases. But I didn't know that they had a code on them. I mean, I knew that I've seen that code on the back, the stamped in 3-digit or 2-digit, whatever. But I didn't know that could mean that it's an actual later printing, which could, in theory, mean that there was some kind of update to the cartridge itself. That's pretty cool.
So does that mean then that the all gold cartridge, which would have come in that original like glossy front cover, right? That's the one. Would that be the original version 1.0 with the red blood and the Islamic chant?
It's the one you want, baby.
Yeah. So I just to be clear, there's apparently 3 versions of Ocarina of Time. There's the original, and then I guess what some people refer to as like 1.1 and 1.2. Apparently the gold version is like always like almost 100% going to be that very first version with like the Islamic chants. And then the gray, you have to look to see if it's a letter A or letter B on that manufacturer's stamp. And like another like fun factoid is that in the first version, every single time when Link was like climbing up a ladder and had like a sword or an item in Link's hands, like he would just climb up right away. But in the newer versions of the game, they added an animation where he would always put back his sword or always like put like a hook shot back like in his bag or something. And I think the beginning of like speed running the game, people were like, oh, this makes a difference. to like wait for those animations. So let me get my hands on a gold cart and to like shave off time.
Yeah.
And then quick side note, I was like going down a rabbit hole about the speed running. Turns out like the record for Ocarina of Time is like 4 minutes.
Jesus.
And it's like people are not interested in Ocarina of Time speedrunning anymore because someone figured out that you can like glitch out the game and skip right. You don't even like skip to Adult Link. You don't like, minor spoilers, but you guys had 25 years to play the game.
Yeah, it's on you if you don't know this now.
Yeah, like you never turn into Adult Link. You never fight Ganon. You just like skip right to the final scene with like Zelda, like thanking you, and it's just like I was like, oh my god, like
That's wild.
I don't think people care, like are gung ho about grabbing like the earlier versions for speed running purposes, but it is a good example that people have documented of like the cart changes in Ocarina of Time. And I think it's still a mystery with some of the other games like Shadows of the Empire. Mortal Kombat Trilogy is another one that had updated revisions, and don't know if it's readily available, like what the differences are.
Yeah, that would be hard to figure out too, because you'd have to have two people playing the game the exact same way, side by side, and doing absolutely everything to try to even see if you can find a difference.
Yeah, there's that, and then I think some of like the really tech savvy people, they do these ROM dumps of the game and somehow can figure out changes that way. But yeah, it's like it's way over my head with how people figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about how we can go ahead and how we can go about identifying cart revisions when it comes to Switch games.
Yes. So this is the part where anyone who's listening, if you have access to a Switch game, please go ahead and grab one, take a look at the back. And for most of the Switch's life, there's a 11 character alphanumeric code on the back.
Alphanumeric.
And I think people are still trying to figure out exactly what all the characters represent. It would be great if like someone from Nintendo just went out and came out and said it.
Well, since they're probably listening to this, we'll find out soon.
Yeah, hopefully. But the last three numbers from the last three numbers from the left or the first three from the right, if you have the earlier 11 character code, those numbers indicate what version it is. And so the very first version of a game usually will have 000. And if you see 001, 002, 003, it means that and this isn't 100% true, but generally how it works is it means that publisher put out an updated version of the game, and then you would still need to put it into your Switch and see what software update comes on the game. And like you could put it into if it is the latest version on cart, you'd put it into your Switch, check for updates, and it would say like no updates of the game. And then I think there's a way that you could go in and actually see what the version number is. Mm-hmm. So it kind of goes hand in hand where you want to pay attention to what is the cart, the back of the cart number, and then what is the software version of the game. And then lastly, really quick, just recently, starting in the fourth quarter of 2024, Nintendo started producing games with 13 character codes, and they've shortened the revision number. It's no longer 3 digits. It's actually only 2 digits. And if you're going from the right, it ends up being the 4th and 5th number that indicates what the version is. So for example, if you had a game that was produced prior to the fourth quarter of 2024 and you saw version 003 on it, and there weren't any updates to that game, but they were still producing like new cartridges of this game up until now, if you grabbed one today, that did I say 003? I'm forgetting the example I use in my head.
Yep.
You would see a 03 and then 3 more characters to the right that are new characters that people believe indicate when the game was actually manufactured. It looks like people have figured out that the third to last and the second to last character represent the month and the year, and people are speculating that the very last character now represents the day. So it's like a manufacturer's date on it. And
Really?
so if you see like if you see a 4Y, the 4 represents 2024 and the Y represents November. They've cracked that code where like they were seeing nothing but 4s, and then starting in 2025 they were seeing nothing but 5s, and so that was representing the year. And then people believe that the month is indicated by like 1 through 9 for January through September, and then XYZ for October, November, December.
Interesting.
And the logic is there. That's super. And what impresses me is people like taking the time to figure all this out. My attention span would be like, wow, that's cool, and then I'd move on. Let somebody else do the legwork for me. I have a lot of respect for people who can take the time to figure this stuff out, man.
Yeah, and then like especially when it just helps like the community, or it just helps people like, you know, get what they want for the people that care about the latest version of games. Like this type of code cracking and just crowdsourcing like what games are out there. You know, Jimmy was talking about it earlier. That's like, you know, why we started going after some of these like Pokemon games or other games with updated versions, because it was discovered by somebody willing to volunteer that information that there's a new version of a cartridge out there. So to start looking for it.
Yep. Is this the part where I can open my messenger right now to see what the code is?
Yeah.
Just to demonstrate how you identify what the revision is. You might as well do it right now. This is free content, me opening a brand new game. If I find googly eyes, I'm out of here, guys.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear from me for like a couple weeks.
Nope. You don't even have to subscribe to the Patreon for this. It's giving it to you for free.
Boys. The messenger.
So this should be one of 13 character code.
This would have come out. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay. No googly eyes. So we passed the first test. It's an actual game. All right. So little gray code. So you said the 4th and 5th from the right would be the revision?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 0, 0. So this would be interesting. So
yes.
I wonder what
And
this is on
you
the
know
list.
what? I'm glad you picked the messenger, because in some cases, when a game has like new DLC content, there won't be a version update, but the 5th character from the left, and God, I hope I'm not boring your listeners to death with this, Chris, but
I bore them to death with my ramblings.
So the messenger is famous. Well, we were just talking about how like it first was released as like a limited release, and then years later they've now come out with a new build of the game that has DLC on it. Yes. That 5th character, I think, is like the letter E from the left.
The 5th character or the 6th character?
Maybe. No, I think that the 5th, if it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one.
From the left, you said?
Yeah, from
the left.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's E.
Yeah. So that's like that 5th character is supposed to represent the build. And so the first build of the game is usually supposed to start with A. So they've denoted it on this cartridge with the DLC, like that is a later build of the game. And there's something very similar with Zelda Breath of the Wild that has the expansion pass on it. They didn't do an updated version because it's considered a new build of the game with more content. They reflect that update with that 5th character. I would call this extra credit when it comes to like the cartridge revision stuff, because in most cases it is like the version that we're paying attention to. The messenger is one of those outlier cases where even with the newest printing of the game, it's still 0-0 when it comes to the version.
Yeah, instead of being 0-1 like it might normally be if it was a complete on cart edition, you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, hey, happy to have it.
Success.
Now
No googly eyes. Complete on card messenger.
So I have two next to each other then, because my Brilliant Diamond is 005, the old code style, 11 digits, you said. And then I have the 13-digit one here in Messenger, 00, both complete on cart. So,
yep.
Nice.
So with
look
the Brilliant
Look
Diamond,
what you've done to me, Rob.
Yeah. You've created a monster. With the Brilliant Diamond, what exactly did they add to the cartridge that wasn't in the basic release of the game?
Chris, I'm glad you bring that up, because as a Pokemon fan, this is actually pretty interesting. Okay, so I screenshotted this because there's been a lot of confusion about this specific video game in terms of cart revisions. So 000, the original version of the game on cart, Brilliant Diamond, I believe Shining Pearl too, it was an unfinished game. There were like some end game content, cutscenes, and music that were missing. There were game-breaking bugs where, like, you could go into like the 7th gym, you could trigger an event that you could not reset the game in, and you'd have to just like start all over again. Like it would end your game file or your game file basically. And 000, Shaman was not acquirable, but 00 was infamous and honestly liked in some ways, because there was this like item duplication glitch where you could just you could duplicate endless amounts of like nuggets or TMs, etc., things you would want, in-game currency and items that are helpful for progressing in the game. But it was essentially an unfinished / broken game, was 000. So that's a case where they had to revise it for it to be an actual game that works. And, you know, Pokemon already has enough perception issues at times anyways, so they had to do that. 001, this is the one I had a lot of fun with. It had the complete game, or at least the full main game on it. There were still some game-breaking bugs. There was still a item duplication glitch, and this is where you could glitch the game in a cool way to acquire Shaman. Like, you could go in that little field across the sea, and you could, like, for example, shiny reset over and over again and try to get Shaman, which I did. I did that for probably like 10 or 15 hours before I gave up because I didn't get it.
Dang, you went that long and then gave up?
I just
got to go the distance at that point.
There was other Pokemon stuff I had to do probably. Interestingly, 001 did not have the Arceus event. So that takes us to 002. I think this is considered, so there's two desirable, in quotes, editions of this game. And this is the first one that's desirable, the 002. It had the full main game. All the game-breaking bugs have been fixed, so you can't accidentally screw yourself and have to start all over. There is still a item duplication glitch. Yes, Shaman can still be acquired, but Arceus was not included. So this had like a kind of like a best of both worlds, except no Arceus. Then I went to 003, full game, no game-breaking bugs, no item duplication. So now all the stuff you could do to, like, you know, break the game in terms of item duplication and have fun with that stuff, gone. Shaman, let me see here. Shaman glitch was not possible. So once you got to 003, Shaman was no longer available. And the only way to acquire Shaman at that point, if you had this version of the game, was an actual in-game event, a timed event, a la like the original Diamond and Pearl and the original way to get Shaman. It was timed. Once that time went past, you couldn't get Shaman anymore. So if you have this version of the game, Shaman is just not obtainable, just period, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
However, trying to think here. Also, no Arceus in that one. 004 was kind of like just a nonchalant. There were some updates to like online stuff. And then 005, which is the one I have here, all updates on cart. Arceus event is included on this cart. No glitches, Shaman, or item duplication or otherwise. So it's basically the full game with Arceus, just no access to Shaman. So people are torn a little bit on which revision of the game they want. Generally 2 or 5. Some people like to have the best of both worlds. Some people like to have like a shiny Ruby 002 and a brilliant Diamond 005, so they can get kind of the best of both worlds. But isn't that interesting, dude? Like, that many cart revisions and all the differences. Like, as a Pokemon fan, I love that stuff.
Yeah, and this is where, like, This is like the stuff that I find fascinating with like how many the Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. This is one of the more infamous examples of a game that has gone through several software updates and actually numerous cartridge revisions.
Mm-hmm.
And you were bringing up a case where like some people down the line will specifically seek out an older version of the game where you can do some of these glitches. And Nintendo does a very good job of making these Switch like updates and the differences between the versions public. If you go on their customer support page, I think every single Nintendo published game, they have like a specific page that goes over the different software updates and what's on them. And so, in case anybody was curious, like if they're doing their own homework and want to know like what updates are on the cart. It doesn't tell you what updates are on the carts, that you still have to test out, but it does tell you from software update to software update, like what are the differences.
It's nice that they have that readily available for people to look up.
Yeah. And, you know, the third party games is where I think it's a little more hit or miss. I think in my experience, it is out there on the publishers' websites, but, 10, 15 years from now, like, is this information going to be preserved? Even Nintendo might just start taking some of these customer support pages down. So, I'm sure somebody is like cataloging this stuff, but it will definitely be useful information down the road.
No, that definitely makes sense. So obviously we've talked about the fact that Nintendo they're one of the companies that are definitely working on this. Is there any other companies that anybody knows of that seems to also try to really do revised editions with complete on cart versions, or is it just kind of Nintendo across the board?
It's a good question. I think Nintendo is, the most famous one in terms of trying to get updated cart revisions out there. I'm trying to think of some other examples or some more clear-cut examples of like updated complete on carts. The only ones that come to mind are like companies like Fangamer that will try to actively produce updated versions. But unfortunately, I think most third-party companies don't. They don't think that the cost benefit, they do the cost benefit analysis, and it's like they think most people don't care. We don't need to take the time to produce updated physical versions of the game. They could just download it digitally anyway, and I feel like that's most companies' stances.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's not uncommon that most of the companies don't particularly care too much about the consumer, which, it's all about money anyway. But all right, let's talk about some examples where the cart revision has material updates on them.
Yeah, so I can I could go ahead with a couple, or we can kind of go back and forth. I'm glad Jimmy brought up the Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, because that definitely fits that category of like, if you had to come up with a short list of games where getting the latest version of the game on cart, where like which ones will it matter? That's definitely one of them. Another one where I believe it's going to matter is Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Ooh.
If you go on the customer support page for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they, to date, have made 14 software updates to the original game over the course of, I think it was like 5 years. And I think people are crossing their fingers that they're not doing any more because it's been a couple of years since the latest version was rolled out. And if you look on the customer support page, the number of fixes that they have, it is just a huge laundry list. But I think most of it is related to bug fixes. There's some cases where I think they introduced new blades. I'm not as familiar with the Xenoblade series as you guys, so you probably know what that means better than me. And then one of the fixes that seem to be more of like one of the better ones is that there's often a weird camera angle during the battles in like earlier versions of the games that was like not comfortable to look at, that apparently was fixed. But yeah, that's one where apparently there's just so many bug fixes where certain quests couldn't be completed because of these bugs. And those are the ones that would stick out to me as like a reason for wanting to get the updated version of the game. If you can't do everything that you're supposed to because of these bugs, and you're a completionist type and want to see like everything a game has to offer, that would be like one of the main reasons why I would want to have the latest version of the game.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me, and makes me want to get a copy of it, where I know that it's complete on cart, because eventually I'm going to want to go back to it. And then, like we've talked about in the future, if it gets to a point where I can't just easily update it from the Nintendo store, I'd like to know that I'm good to go. No, I don't want to have to think about it.
Yeah, so I have 3 others, but wanted to see if you guys had any that come to mind that we could possibly overlap here, so I don't want to steal anybody's thunder.
So we're talking about good examples of like meaningful revisions, basically, is what you're saying? Is that what we're doing right now?
Yeah, right, Chris. We're talking about games where like the software update, like the cart revisions have software updates that like are really impactful to the point where people would want to like definitely seek out that like latest version of it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you were going to talk about this later, but I would I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but any cart revision that has DLC included makes a lot of sense to me, because not necessarily necessary to complete the game, but to have the complete experience on cart, you'd want something with DLC. One of the games I wrote down, which I've talked about many times before, but Metroid Dread has a fully revised version. I don't know what the number is. I'd have to look on the spreadsheet. I'll look it up in a second. But the DLC included a rookie mode. It included a dread mode, which is like a hard mode, basically, which in a hard game is probably a ringer. It included a boss rush mode. So, it's an incredibly good game that has a complete on cart revised version. Not necessary again to have a playable experience, but to have a complete experience. That's one that I sought out and got, and I think it's sold out right now. That one honestly sells out pretty quick generally when it's available, but
I had that one on my list too. The boss rush mode is something where you could just like play like all the bosses in a row, and it's like you can compete for like time and things like that. And that again goes back to like, that's a new feature of a game, not on the original version, that will be lost in time once Nintendo stops supporting the Switch, that will be cool to revisit. And so they also, there were some game breaking bugs that were also fixed with the cart revision. The cart revision for that one, it's actually only 001. They just didn't produce or you know what? No, that might not be correct.
I was going to say, right? I just looked it up.
004.
004.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
That was a mistake in my notes. But yeah, the 004 has all the bug fixes and has those new modes that you were talking about. So you got 2 people on here advocating to get that one if you haven't already.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's one I need to get because I love Metroid, and I want to have the complete on cart experience down the road for sure.
Funnily enough, too, another franchise that's famous for speed running. I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but yeah.
No, definitely. I think one of the examples I had was Nintendo Switch Sports.
Yep.
Yeah, because obviously the first version of the game when it came out, they didn't have the sports that were unreleased to that point, which were golf and basketball, I believe. And then as they've released those, if I'm not mistaken, I believe there's a physical release for one where they had just added golf, and then there's one where they have golf and basketball on it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting and also cool because why wouldn't you want the one with everything on the cartridge? But unlike most, we talked about earlier how most of the time there's no physical representation on the box to represent that the cartridge is complete. But this one, if I'm not mistaken, does have little emblems for the extra games that it has on each version, right? So the one that just has golf has a golf little emblem, and then the one that has golf and basketball has both of those.
Yeah, this is one where they actually, you're right, that they did take the time to update the front and back of the case with some clues that it's a later version of the game.
Actually somewhat easy to find, which is a nice change of pace in this case.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm still debating on whether to pick this game up because like I have the Wii version and I know that like basketball is not on the Wii version, but it's like it's just not high on my want list and like for Switch games. But yeah, I might maybe I'll change my mind down the road.
Yeah, I agree. This to me, well, Wii Sports is a great example of this because it's a game. It was fantastic. You know, everybody played it, but I never played it at home. Like unless we had people over, I played it at my friend's house. You know, and like that's kind of what I feel like this is to me too. Like I don't see myself playing. I don't see me and Jasmine playing it. Like I don't see people coming over to my place to play it. Like so, but the collector in me thinks it's cool that there's a complete on cart version. And maybe one day I'll want to play it.
Yeah.
And therein lies the problem.
Another one that I'd recommend to people is Mario Golf Super Rush. This was a game that was lacking a lot of things when it first came out. And when they did come out with a cartridge revision that had the latest software version on it and included new characters, new courses, options for different difficulties, different game modes. And then they also they made like game balance adjustments. I guess they made certain characters that maybe were considered overpowered, like less overpowered. I don't know exactly what that entails, but those are just all things where it's like, it seems like it's a night and day different game for the better with the latest version.
So that's good to know. Have either of you guys played that game? Because it looked fun, but it got kind of mid reviews, and I just hadn't really spent much time thinking about it afterwards.
So I didn't because, like when it first came out, I think people were complaining about the lack of depth. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to pass on this one. But now with this version update, if they reviewed this newest version of the game, I bet it would score better.
Yeah. God, I wish they'd do that sometimes. Actually, like respectable reviewers that we like their opinion would re-review something after updates and stuff and say how it is now. That's one definitely worth keeping an eye out, though. With all that extra content on it, like, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you want to own that version if you can find it? I think the only other example I have, and I think this is probably one of the more well-known ones, and you guys probably both have it on your list, but would have been the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet plus DLC, the cart revision. Because the first one that came out only had, I don't remember the two DLCs names off the top of my head, but only had the first DLC on the cart, which is still nice. But the second one was a download code. But then they did the most recent cart revision that actually has both DLC on the cartridge. Which I do believe that part of the reason for that was because the game actually came out before the second DLC released. I think that's why they didn't have the second DLC on cartridge at launch. But I'm glad that they re-released it with everything on the cartridge because it makes it way better value since it is a more expensive game at $90 or $80, whatever it is.
Yeah, I've got to say that this is one of the areas where being aware at all of these revised carts is put me in a bit of a pickle, right? Because like with Pokemon specifically, we all know I love it so much, and I got to play it immediately when a new game comes out. But now I know the current landscape of Pokemon is most of these games, especially the mainline ones, are going to get DLC, usually 1-pack or 2-packs of DLC. And I'm not going to wait until those DLC come out to play the game. So like, what do I do? Like I feel like my approach now is going to be probably buy it digitally first, which for the convenience of digital, and then I'm going to wait for a copy that is complete on cart to get. And I don't even like that I have to do that, but I don't have to. But it's something I have to think about, because I know sooner or later that DLC is going to come out and there's going to be a revised cart of it, and that's the version I want.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to argue your argument.
Oh,
so
good.
When Sword and Shield came out, there was this very small window where I was like, I'm going to go digital. I got to save space. At the time, we still lived in our little apartment, so only 400 square feet. I didn't have the room for a collection. I wasn't selling my stuff, but I just figured I couldn't add more. So I was like, I'm going to go digital, and I bought a couple games digitally, but Pokemon Sword was one of them. Yes, it is nice to have it convenient because it is a game. I mean, at least until the new one came out, you went back to somewhat regularly.
Yeah.
But out of the 4 games I bought digitally, that's the one I hated the most that I didn't have physically on the shelf as a Pokemon collector. And I have since bought the Shield Plus expansion and the Sword Plus expansion because I think it's cool that they both have it. I don't have both Sword and Shield base. I don't have either physically, but I wish I had at least Sword physically because I spent $60 on it. And it's just digital, which I know there's the digital lovers out there, and that's fine. It's just not me with a game like that.
Yeah.
Other games that I bought digitally, Smash Brothers Ultimate, heck, I don't even remember. Smash Brothers Ultimate and Animal Crossing was another one. That was a little later though. I don't regret because I don't know. I don't feel as much of a need to own it physically. And they were ones I went back to so regularly. It was nice to have it digitally.
Yeah.
But Pokemon, and I just kind of you're such a Pokemon fan and such a Pokemon collector. I think you just buy it physically day one and buy the revised one later on. You did that with Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, I think you're right only in that the original games will have different box art than the DLC versions of the games will have. So it's completely different collector's piece, especially if you're doing a complete Pokemon collection. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. I think you just sold me on it. I feel like this is the problem here. Part of me wishes I didn't know about these revised versions because it changes entirely how I think and am approaching collecting physical games that I love.
I don't think I get it. I get where you're coming from, but I don't think
part of me loves it, part of me hates it. So
I can speak a little bit for us because we've known each other for a long time. The way I look at it, Metroid Dread is a great example of this. We didn't know there was going to be DLC on the card or anything, but I'm not going to wait to play that game.
No,
I'm going to have it day one. It's one of my favorite series, so I'm going to want it physical. And if they do eventually do DLC and they do eventually re-release it with extra content, I'm going to want that version. If it's a game that maybe you don't need to play day one, I don't Mario Wonder. If you didn't plan on playing Mario Wonder day one, and so then you hold off on buying it, and then if they do DLC and do a revised cart, then you buy it. But I think it's case by case, and I just think if you're gonna, as far as I'm concerned, and I know not everybody agrees with this, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but as far as I'm concerned, if I like a game enough to want to buy it day one, I'm going to buy it day one. And if I liked it enough that I want to buy a revised version with everything on the cart, I'm going to buy it again. And I'm not going to feel bad about it,
and that's what Go ahead.
Sorry, Jim. I was going to say, I think that's a great take, especially when you try to bridge that gap between playing and collecting, where it's there's the collectability aspect of the complete on cart games. But if there's a game that you want to play and it's coming out day one, at this point, in 2025, I think it's you almost are always going to expect that there's going to be updates to the game. And if it's a Nintendo game, there probably will be a revised cart. But if you're getting your satisfaction out of playing it, that's the win right there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, all right, Rob. Then I got a question for you, and maybe I hope I'm not jumping the gun here at all. But okay. So let's say you did buy what you perceive to be the latest revised version of a game, such as, like we were just talking about, Pokemon Scarlet plus DLC, right? The most updated version, complete on cart. We don't think it's getting any more versions, except we do know that it's getting an update on the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I don't want to jump the gun here. how do we think that's going to change things? Like, will there be another revised version, do we think, of a Switch 1 game that acts differently on the Switch 2? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
You are crazy, but that's besides the point.
People that care about this complete uncart stuff, it's on everybody's minds on like how this is if this is going to change and how it's going to change on the Switch 2. It's something that I've been thinking about because it's like, you know, if Nintendo re-releases games for Switch 2, are the Switch 1 copies going to take a hit? We already know that is happening with or actually, like I need to pay closer attention. I'm not 100% sure, like with some of the games like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, both Zelda games, like are those builds of the games for Switch 2, like are they going to be different?
Yeah.
One thing that I did want to bring up is that it was confirmed for Zelda Breath of the Wild that they are not putting the expansion pass on the Nintendo Switch 2 version that gets released.
What the heck?
What I'm holding in my hand is a version of Breath of the Wild for Switch 1 that has the expansion pass on cart. It didn't come out in the US. It only came out in Japan, South Korea, and a couple other countries. And when I started this complete uncart madness, this is one of the first ones I got because I thought this was one of the cooler things to have the Master Trials and Champions Ballad DLC on the cart. When Switch 2 announced that they were re-releasing the Zelda games for Switch 2, I was like, oh, is this going to take a hit because they're going to produce this with the DLC on the Switch 2 cart? Nintendo has already said that they're not. So
why not? Like, are they going to make people pay for it, or is it just not going to be available?
I don't know, and that's why I'm definitely taking like a wait and see approach to see like how these re-releases of Switch 1 games for Switch 2, like how they're going to be treated. And I think that for me the answer is going to be like if there is a latest and greatest complete uncart Switch 2 version of a game, I think down the road that will probably be the one that I want to pursue because it'll be like updated resolution, graphics, frame rate. But then part of me also thinks the Switch 1 is probably going to be a very collectible system. And some of these games on Switch 1 are probably going to hold their value because of that fact. So
no, you're 100% right.
Yeah, it's a tough puzzle to try to solve right now, especially when I feel like there's just a lot of conflicting information with how these Switch 2 games are. Like I'm still confused where it's like I've heard that some games, the Switch 2 version of some games, you could stick them in the Switch 1 and they'll work. I don't know if I'm making that up.
No,
I've heard that. I've heard that too.
The Rune Factory game for Switch 2, which it's coming to Switch 1 as well, but I pre-ordered that one because that's one of the few games outside of Nintendo they've said it's complete on cart. But they have also said that you can put the Switch 2 version in the Switch 1 and it'll download the Switch 1 version of the game. Which that's like above and beyond. Like I don't think anybody would have expected anybody to do that. Like you buy the Switch 2 version, you feel lucky that you got the Switch 2 version complete on cart on there. I don't know if anybody else is doing that. That might be a one-off type situation because I haven't heard others are doing it. But that's pretty wild. I just wouldn't have expected it.
Yeah.
I had one more game that I wanted to mention with material updates that I'd recommend people getting, and that one is Celeste.
Yeah.
This was also kind of the same trajectory as The Messenger, where it was first released as a limited run game, and years later, Gamer got the rights to produce a version of the game that is complete on cart. You could go on. There's a specific. I forget. I don't think it's Fangamer. I forget the specific developer, but there's patch notes on Celeste that are out there outlining what the changes are. And they made a lot of updates to that game. They've made like level changes, like speed changes to the game, or I'm reading it and I kind of just make a judgment call. Like, are these changes like quite impactful in the way that you play the game? And I thought so. And the good news is that you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars for the limited run version. Fangamer, I think, is selling it for $35, and that will be a good one to pick up, especially because I think Celeste is going to be one of those like forever cherished games.
Oh yeah, It's fantastic.
Incredible.
I love Celeste.
Yeah. So dang good.
So let's talk a little bit more. We kind of broached the subject a little bit, but let's talk a little bit more about the Switch 2. Because obviously that's on the horizon now. The Switch is 8 years old. The Switch 2 is coming out in a month, and there's a lot of chatter. We talked about it a little bit, but there's a lot of worry with the whole game key card aspect of it. So it kind of makes you wonder what the future of cart revisions. What is the oh my god what is the future of cart revisioning? I don't know, for the Switch 2. Like, will we see it like we have on the Switch 1? Will it be better? Will it be worse? What do you think, Rob?
Well, there's early rumors going around that Nintendo is only providing select cartridge sizes compared to the Switch 1, where publishers had a lot more options with the cartridge size and could do a better job of, our game is 15 GB, we could get a 16 GB cart and that'll be good. Apparently, the rumors are saying that there's going to be only a 64 GB cart. I've heard conflicting things that there might be an 8 GB one, there might not be. And so if those rumors are true, I think it's going to put a lot of strain on publishers trying to keep costs down, where they might elect not to go the cartridge. They're going to elect to go the key card route, where it's just a license to download the game online. And that would certainly suck if that was the case. I'm again, a lot of people love jumping the gun early. I'm definitely going to want to wait and see. Mm-hmm. And it could even be a situation where, like, Nintendo, if this was all true, they might switch gears in a couple years if there seems to be demand for it. Or companies like VGP or the Lost and Colt, or even other people might step in and say, you know what, we see this demand for people wanting complete on-cart games. We might be able to provide this service to those customers who want the complete on-cart games. Maybe we can produce a version that is complete on-cart.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to stay optimistic that, like, there will be a place for people like us that care about the physical games, especially, like, there could be a future by 2028, 2029 that Nintendo is the last company that's producing physical games.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, there'd be even more pressure or more demand for people clamoring for physical releases of games. And then maybe Nintendo figures that it's worthwhile to do so. It seems like at least the Nintendo games, they're going to be on cartridge.
Yeah.
And I think, if anything, that's what people care about the most, is like the first party games being on cart.
Oh, so for sure.
That's a win.
My big thing is, like, whenever you get a new console, it's kind of the new hotness, you know, like you want to play it, you want to play stuff on it. Like, obviously Mario Kart is a big one. But other than Mario Kart, like, then that's only Nintendo flagship title at launch. So, like, then I tend to use my Nintendo consoles for first party stuff, mostly exclusively, but I wanted to get something else to play on it. And, like, I looked at Yakuza 0 because I've never played it, the series, and I felt like that would be a good entry point, but it was a key card. But that's why I went Rune Factory, because I like the Harvest Moon games. Rune Factory is a cool RPG, you know, twist on the Harvest Moon series, and it's complete on cart. But then, like, Cyberpunk to me is super impressive. the fact that they took the time to put the whole game on the cartridge, including the DLC, and it's it's a big game. It's a big PS5 game. Like they, I respect that, and I don't have personally like the game doesn't really appeal to me, but that is the kind of like thing I want to put my money behind. Those developers that are actually like taking the time to do that, because I respect, and they've been vocal about it too. They're like, we want to give the consumer, they're probably still trying to earn back some goodwill too from the completely terrible launch of the game originally when it came out. But that's just how you do it, though. You say positive things about the consumer. You try to give people what they want, and then you can still buy it digitally if you want to. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because there's not a lot of complete on cartridge releases at launch.
Yeah.
Marvelous seems to be the company that is supporting that right now, which they did Rune Factory, and they're doing the oh my god, the Machina game. What's it called?
The Daemon.
Yeah, there it is. I wanted to say Daemon X Machina. Like they're doing that game. That's complete on cart as well. Story of Seasons is complete on cart. So they seem to be on that path. But I guess we'll just see what happens with the rest.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with both of you on this, pretty much 100%. I'd say I'm a little bit less optimistic than Rob. Sorry, Rob, but it's just it's only because those rumors seem to be taking a shape, right? Like Nintendo is doing this for a reason. If what we're hearing is true, it is just a 64 gig cart or a game key card. And reportedly, I don't know how accurate this information is, the game key card costs roughly $1 to manufacture for publishers that are publishing their games, and the 64 gig card something like $16, right?
Wow.
So, like,
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I that's what I've heard on other podcasts. Again, the information behind it could be flawed, but I mean, let's say it's better than that. Let's say that it's $10 for a 64 gig cart for a publisher, right? Like they're trying to make money, and Nintendo is giving them an option, obviously, so that they don't have to spend as much money and they can make more money. Nintendo is playing nice, right? They're playing nice for their partners so that they can continue to have good relationships and sell a lot of games and have a successful console, not just a launch, but a life cycle, which makes sense because the Switch that's one of the reasons the Switch 1 did so well. I would say generally speaking, the outlook for like complete on cart games because of stuff like that early doesn't look great. But again, like you said, I think Nintendo is going to continue to give fans what they want in regards to first party stuff, which to me, that's all that really matters. But I know that's not the only thing that matters to a lot of people. A lot of people want the third party games. They love to have complete on cart games too. So I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that we're all kind of wrong on this a little bit. And like you said, there's going to be other third party companies that are, hopefully are going to find their niche and give us options that we can't have otherwise. Like Chris said, I am going to support the ones that are being vocal about, yes, we're giving you an option. Like I haven't played Cyberpunk before and I wanted an option other than Mario Kart. So I'm going to buy that right off the bat and support their efforts. And yeah, maybe voting with our wallets in this case will make a difference or make an impact. Maybe there'll be some figure earlier like, wow, that actually, I don't know.
It made a difference.
I don't know. But yeah, I hope that it turns out to be better and we have more options than it's looking like we're going to have early. But
yeah. I will say this on the topic of game key cards. It is still not my favorite thing in the world by any means. And I like right now, I'm not even sure where I stand on actually buying them myself. Mm-hmm. But as far as being much more consumer friendly than the Coden box, that I agree with, because from what I understand, this is a reusable card. So you have to have the cartridge in the console, but as long as it's in there, you can download it on another. So you can share this with other people. Like it's not a one-time code that's stuck on your console or stuck to your account. That I believe that is what I have read. And if that's the case, that is 100% more consumer friendly than the code in box concept has been up to this point. And at least if we have to go down a route where we are all digital, or like closer to being all digital, at least this is a route where it kind of at least fixes a few of the complaints I have about the digital aspect.
Yeah.
It still has a value. You can still sell it or trade it in to somebody.
Share it with your friends.
You can share it with your friends. Like, there's at least still value to it. But on an episode where we're talking about cart revisions and complete on cart content, this is still as far away as you can get from that.
Yeah, another benefit to the key cards is that it's provided more transparency around like how some games just barely include any content on the cart and you're downloading most of it anyway. Mm-hmm. Nintendo is now like making it much more clear on the label that like, hey, this is what you're getting. Like, this is not a complete on cartridge or almost complete on cartridge experience. So it's actually drawn more eyeballs to like this topic in gaming, and it's good because now I think more people are starting to care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like it's been very vocal, but then again, the collector space tends to be pretty vocal anyway, sometimes obnoxiously so. But yeah, I think the future is going to be interesting. I do look forward to it. I'm excited for the Switch too, so like none of this is shaking my excitement for that. But I do look forward to seeing how publishers go about this, because I think if certain publishers follow this like positive, like conversation, like whatever the publisher is that does Cyberpunk and Marvelous. Mm-hmm. I'm probably one of 6 people in the world that remembers Marvelous, but not the Cyberpunk publisher.
Yeah,
it's like Project something.
Yeah, CD Projekt Red. There we go.
Yeah.
If that positive presentation of being complete on cart and everything, I think is going to do them some good. Like, I've talked to multiple people just in my small circle that are buying at least one of, if not both of those games at launch because they're complete on cart. And like me personally, like Rune Factory is cool, but it would probably not be something I'd buy at launch normally. But it to me is the most interesting thing outside of Mario Kart that I can get complete on cart, so I'm going to support it.
Yeah. Okay, I got a question for you guys, just hypothetically speaking. If what I've heard is true about the 64 gig carts being that much the cost to the manufacturer, $16, for example, that means they got to sell at a higher price point than that, right, to make money. So let's say $20 added or something. Let's say they had what was available to the masses, and then they offered you an option, like an open pre-order option where you could pre-order what will inevitably become the complete on cart version of whatever this game is, even if it's like years after the fact. Would you guys pay an extra, let's say 20, 25, even 30 to lock in that game in advance? Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah.
Would you do it?
I would, but I think the majority of consumers wouldn't. I think the majority of people would rather just get the digital version.
Mm-hmm. I'm with Rob. I would as well. My only thing is, as long as it's the game I want, like I'm not going to pay extra to get a complete on cart version of a game I don't care about. But but as long as it's the game I want, absolutely. And I think I interrupted you, Rob.
No, I was just going to say, like, and I think we were coming to this, we were going to get to this point on if we think like we're going to give a recommendation on whether it's worth caring about cart revisions or not. And Sony and Nintendo, they recently published like their digital to physical sales breakdowns like over the last year. Mm-hmm. And in both cases, like Sony's at a 70-30 split where 70% of their sales are digital. Nintendo's at a 55-45 split. Mm-hmm. With 55% being digital. And I bring this up because you look at that and it's like more than half of buyers already technically don't care about complete on cart games because they're electing to buy digital. That is a bit of an assumption, but that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. So it's like you've already knocked out more than half of the population's not caring about like physical versions of games. And then of the people who do care about physical, it's definitely going to be a smaller slice of the pie that care about getting the complete on-card games. So to your point, Jimmy, if there's like such a higher cost associated with the 64 gigabyte carts, these companies are going to do the math and be like, it's just not worth it. And it's like, yeah, Rob, Jimmy, and Chris are going to be pissed, but
but we don't care.
We're going to be more profitable doing this. And I understand that that's the way things are heading. I just like to hope that maybe, like what I was saying before, is I can see like a smaller player, like a Limited Run Games, Lawson Colt, and Gaber, like seeing a profitable opportunity there to provide complete on-card games. And then 20, 30 years from now, when Switch collecting may like really take off, these games might be the ones that people want. And so it's going to be the ones that I would want.
I feel like you could draw a comparison to movies, right? Like most people now, they just stream, right? People don't buy physical movies much anymore, generally speaking. But there's still an option, right? You can still go to, well, at least online, you can go to Target. You can go to Walmart now, is actually one of the bigger ones for getting like steel books and more like special edition movies. Like physical is still an option in the movie world, right? Like even in a landscape where it's like very much predominantly people just streaming digitally their content, whether it's TV shows or movies. Like we're well past that point, right? Like most people I know do not buy physical movies. I'm one of the only people I know that does that. And I feel like that is a reason to be very optimistic, because movies, that's still an option. There's still a market for it. There's still money to be made on people like us. So I feel like video games is going to be similar, at least in the short term to medium term. We're going to have options, I feel like, for freaks like us that want the real fine details on our physical video game carts.
Yeah,
but
I think
I agree with that for sure. And like same point with vinyl. Like vinyl is selling as well as ever because people, they like the physical component. Maybe streaming services are not offering some of the music they want to get. So there are reasons to pick up the physical versions of media still today.
Yeah, and I think in the vein of movies and TV, the one thing that I think is working in favor for physical media in that realm is the fact that there are so many freaking streamers now that you can be subscribed to Netflix, HBO, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon, Paramount, and I could keep going, and still want to watch one specific movie or TV show and not have an opportunity to watch it. And I think now, because they have overflooded the market with streaming services, now people are starting to get frustrated, and now there's a little bit more of a desire again to just own the movie or TV show. And I kind of had gotten to a point where I was just I probably hadn't bought a movie in years, or especially a TV show, and because I was just I just watch whatever on Netflix or whatever. But yeah, it got to a point where I was paying for 4 different services, maybe even more, and wanted to watch something. And we were looking for like one of 3 very specific movies. They weren't streamable on any of the services that we wanted, and you couldn't even rent 2 of them like digitally. And I was done at that moment. I think I've talked about this before, but at that moment I was done. I was like, whatever, I'm done with these stupid services. We don't even watch 2 of these ever. So we went down to just 2 at a time, rotating when we want, and I buy my movies again, and we watch them,
Yeah.
I
would rather just have it and know if I want to watch it, I can watch it. And I am one of those people that will rewatch movies and TV shows. So
yeah. I've been marathoning the Mission Impossible movies and prep for the new Mission Impossible coming out this weekend in theaters. And it is a great feel. It's a great feeling, dude, to go to your shelf, pull out a movie you want to watch, pop it in. It's just reliable. It's just nice. Mm-hmm. And so parallel to video games, it's a little different because video games are generally a lot longer of an experience and to consume than a movie, but you want them there. You want to have them,
Mm-hmm. Also special features on movies, Blu-rays and DVDs. I like special features. I love the outtakes and the little, extra stuff they'll put in. When I really like a movie, I'll rewatch it with the director's commentary. It's to me, that stuff is interesting, and you don't get that with digital.
Yeah.
But like, I'm also not a purist when it comes to movies, like, or TV shows. I'll watch a lot of it on Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
I just like the option sometimes of knowing I can own it if I want to. And that's one thing I hate about streaming now. A lot of these shows that are Netflix exclusive or whatever, you can't even own it.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, you got 2 Xbox guys here, and we'll tell you that's one of the strengths of Game Pass. You can try your games out. If you love it, you can buy it after the fact.
Thanks, buddy. Dude, Game Pass just got that retro edition, though, like where they got a bunch of like Atari games. They also got some MS-DOS games. And amongst those, they got Space Quest 2 and 6. I was like, what the heck? I love Space Quest. And now I'm looking at getting an Xbox just so I can play Space Quest 2 and 6 on Xbox.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, all right. So let's, we're kind of concluding here. I think we've ranted and raved enough. But before we end here, Rob, why don't we talk about a few cart revisions that we feel like are the most important for people to keep an eye on? You can explain what your thought process is here too.
Yeah, the way that, and maybe this is not what you were thinking, Chris, but I was thinking there's still some games that I want to pick up, but I'm purposely waiting because I think there's going to be either an updated revision down the road.
Yeah.
So there's 3 on my personal list. One of them is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, where there's this expansion pass content that has not come out on cartridge.
Yeah.
And I think, and with all 3, with 2 of these games I'm going to mention, I think it's like there's a chance that they come up with an updated like Switch 2 version of the game. And so I want to kind of wait and see what happens there. And with that expansion pass content, apparently it's rich in content where it would be a shame if it just never got released again.
Agreed.
So I kind of don't want to pick up it's weird because I don't want to pick up the Xenoblade 3, but then I have 1, 2, and Torna, and it's like, oh, am I going to just have this like incomplete set? And I'll probably pick up Chronicles X for Switch down the road.
Yeah.
So that's a weird one, but that's one I'm keeping an eye on. Another one for me is Tears of the Kingdom. I have not played it, and there is like there was some software updates that haven't come out on cart yet. So I figure with the upgrades that are coming to the Switch 2 version of the game, maybe this one isn't so much of a like look out for the revisions, but just like if it's going to be a better experience and it'll probably have some of these, it could be complete on cart too. That's one for me that I'm waiting on. And then the last one is Stardew Valley on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
This is another weird one where the creator of the game just keeps making updates. I think he was quoted as recently saying like, I'd rather keep making updates to Stardew Valley than produce a sequel to the game. It's just easier.
Mm-hmm.
And Fangamer recently came out with an updated release of Stardew Valley that had like a more like later version on cart, but because this guy just keeps churning out new updates, there's a lot of updates that are not on there.
Yeah.
So this goes back to like another like annoying aspect of complete on cart collecting is that there's always a chance that a new version could come out just when you thought they were done producing them.
Yeah.
And so with how enthusiastic the creator of the game is, and I'm forgetting his name, because he's so enthusiastic and he keeps producing new versions, I'm patient enough where I'm going to just keep waiting and seeing if I could like figure out when he's done with like the updates, and then see if there's a Switch 2 version or see if Fangamer or somebody else like re-releases it down the road.
Yeah, that's a reasonable one because like he doesn't just do small little things either. Like he constantly is adding more content, like new areas to explore, new animals, new like things to put on your farm. Like, yeah, whenever there's an actual final version of that game, I sure hope it gets a complete release.
He's going to have to move on to Haunted Chocolatier sooner or later. But, yeah, like, Hannah recently bought a physical version of that game, and I let her know that. I was like, I gotta be real with you, Hannah. Like, very soon, this is gonna be an outdated cartridge, not an outdated game. You can still
James
update it and
pushes
all
his
that.
glasses up. Excuse me, Hannah.
I felt like such a nerd. I was like, Hannah, like soon this is gonna be outdated, like the cartridge, not the game, just the cartridge. And I was like, and we wanted to play with each other. And I already did digitals, and I was like, I'm not gonna buy another. If I'm buying a physical for Hannah, I'm just buying one because sooner or later I'm gonna buy physical for myself. I knew that, so I totally agree with that recommendation. Not to mention the fact that it's like a quintessential addition to any Switch library. But yeah, also like you said, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Future Redeemed, the DLC, is a very good call. I'd completely forgotten about that. The fact that Torna exists at all lends a very high probability that this is going to get a version on card at some point, whether it's separate by itself or it's combined with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And yeah,
dude, how awesome would it be on the Switch too if we got a collection of all of them, like in one complete collection?
Oh
I
my
don't know.
gosh,
I don't know about
man.
on card. That might be a lot, but
wow, yeah,
like a couple cartridges, that'd be cool.
Just the fact that we have all the entire series on Switch, like to have the entire series on Switch, but also complete on cart.
I hate Chef's Kiss.
It's good.
but you're right, though. It is cool. That's one thing we've given the Switch a lot of love, but that's one thing I really appreciate about the Switch is how many series ended up being completely playable on the Switch in one form or another. Like getting all the Xenoblades on there. I mean, I almost said Luigi's Mansion, but I guess it only had 2 and 3. But all the Pikmin are available. Like basically every Mario is available when you consider NSO as well. Like,
yeah,
it's nice having an all-encompassing way to play all of these games, all these complete series.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if we talked about this one. I talked about it on an earlier collector's edition, but Mario Kart 8 Deluxe plus Booster Course Pass, revision 003. It's complete with waves 1 through 6 of the DLC, which is, I don't know exactly the number, but it's essentially like 100 courses, and it's all on the cart. Yeah. It's a little pricey right now, so it might be one to wait for, but then again, maybe not, because I don't know I wonder how long this will be in circulation for, the one that's complete on cart. I don't know.
There was, let me push my glasses up. There was news this week that a new software update for the Mario Kart with the expansion pass came out. I don't know how. I have to look. It didn't seem like it was major updates. It was like maybe minor touch-ups. And I don't know if they're going to come out with a new revision for that one.
Oh, that's scary.
So, like, that's exactly an example where it's like, no, I just bought it, and it's and it's with the expansion, it's pricier. Like,
it's an expensive one. It's like $100 almost, basically.
Something like that, yeah.
Sheesh.
So that is one to keep an eye on to see, like, because I guess one other thing I wanted to mention was that I think there's still going to be a runway, a parallel runway where Nintendo is still like making updates to Switch 1 games, or maybe like producing like some Switch 1 games that we haven't heard about through their directs. They might be coming out with a Xenoblade 3 expansion physical. What are the odds of it? Maybe seem unlikely, but it's possible. And then also, like, they could end up producing an updated revision to the Mario Kart with the expansion pass on it. But we'll see.
Yeah. Same with Scarlet and Violet, because it's getting those patches for Switch 2 or whatever, updates with the new hardware. Like, that'll be really interesting to watch. I kind of hope it doesn't get a new revision because I just bought one, but
yeah.
But I could see it. I could totally see it.
Yeah. That's at least one of those ones where, for me personally, if they did release another revision of it, I think I'd still be content with what I got. Yeah. At least the DLC's on there, and that's kind of my bigger thing.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the Mario Kart. It's just like the extra courses is like the meat and potatoes there, and to have all the DLC courses on cart is nice.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the future it's an interesting future we have for physical media. We've talked about it countless times, but I think it's still cool to see Nintendo supporting it so much. I think at the end of the day, they still kind of view themselves as a toy manufacturer, and toys are physical. and I think that's kind of why they lean into this space so much still. And I hope they continue to do so, but only time will tell, huh?
Yep.
So,
But thank you, Rob, for introducing me not long ago, but maybe last year, to this weird world of cart revisions. It's definitely made my collecting more interesting and honestly a little bit more fun, because it's a little bit of a scavenger hunt, and a lot of it requires like timing, and refreshing and just hearing it at the right time, notification watching. Like it's very interesting.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
It's a bittersweet hobby, but the underlying, like, the feeling that I have about it is that, like, some point Nintendo is going to stop Switch support. And it happened with like the 360, but like we were saying before, it just wasn't as prominent with like providing like huge DLC updates then, like, versus what we're seeing today. And it will be interesting to see like the reaction of like when that happens, if people are gonna start gunning for these like complete on-cart versions of the game. I think it will always remain niche, but like there will be a contingent of people, like there's us now, and then there's the younger Switch collectors growing up with the Switch that like are going to want to have curated Switch collections, and are probably like, there's going to be some percentage of them who do care about this sort of thing. So we're getting involved on the ground floor when it's still kind of like a hush hush thing. So that's one good thing, is that we're like, someday we might see a situation where a version 4 of Dread is like double the price of like a regular Dread, or triple the price of a regular Dread. So like that, it's possible that could happen. And like what we're doing now is like, we're not spending that much more to get the latest version of the game if we have that knowledge. So if we're not breaking our backs trying to find the game, and we have that option to buy the later version of the game, it's nice for us to be able to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And the whole goal here too was, I mean, for me, was to learn more. Like, I know this exists, and I've learned some from you and my own little bit of research here and there, but like, I wanted to learn more. I wanted to see more of like how the community thinks. But we also just wanted to kind of bring this to people's attention too, because not everybody that listens to this podcast cares about a physical collection. But for those that do, it's kind of nice to know what you're dealing with. And maybe you're happy just having the base version, and that's fine. But for some people, they might, if they really like a specific game, like we keep using it as an example, but Metroid Dread, they might want to have the copy that has all that content on the cartridge, so they don't ever have to think about it again. Like it doesn't have to necessarily just be collector, like an actual collector that cares. Even casual people who like to own physical games of their favorite games, they might still be considered collectors. I don't know. I'm not getting into that, but they could still care about that, So that's kind of what we wanted to do here.
I hate to keep taking it back to movies, but like, for example, I just bought a 4K version of a movie that I love, that I already had a Blu-ray of, because I just wanted a better experience of something I love. So like, I could see a world where someone's like, yeah, I want this because it's more complete, or it's more enhanced than the one I had before, not because I collect all of them, That makes any sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like with me, when I love a movie like The Fantastic Four, I have it on PSP, I have it on DVD. No, but Rob, I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate you filling us in on cart revisions. I know it's late over on the East Coast, so I don't want to keep you.
My pleasure, guys. I have so much fun talking about this stuff with you guys. Thanks for having me on, and definitely be happy to come on for a feature episode too.
No, it's my pleasure. I look forward to was looking forward to having you on here, and I want to have you on as many times as you want to come on. So never hesitate to ask. And here in the near future, I'm trying to think of like a more curated way to do the podcast every month. And as I fine tune that plan. Like I'm going to be putting it out there for people to join as they want to. I'm not going to just ask directly. Try to open it up for more people again, because I feel like it's got kind of closed off a little bit on accident. So always feel free to say like, yep, I want to be on that episode.
Yeah.
That goes to anybody listening too, unless I don't like you. Just but yeah, no, man, I really appreciate it. And appreciate you working with us on the scheduling too, because it's hard to tie down 3 people's schedules, and when we're on 2 different sides of the US, it can be rough, but I'm glad we made it work.
Yep.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I am merely your cart revision apprentice.
Yeah.
And you do look slightly like Yoda with the Sounders jersey, so I think that's fitting right now.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the digitals. At last we will have our revenge. Oh man. Well, thank you both. Appreciate you as always. To everybody listening, appreciate you tuning into this episode. Please make sure that you like, subscribe to the podcast wherever you are, and check out the YouTube channel if you haven't already, X Button Gaming. And thank you for listening, and remember to always press X to continue.
Wait